There we go. Sorry, I had to pull something up real quick. All right, let's jump straight into it, guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Tim Dillon Show. We have an interview this episode with Max Blumenthal, who wrote an article in the Gray Zone with Trump insiders talking about where Charlie Kirk was mentally in the last few weeks and months of his life and the things he was feeling and the pressure he was under. I didn't know Charlie. I'd never met him. I knew people that knew him well. Everybody liked him, both
You know what's weird?
people I know on the Democratic.
You know what's weird about this? Like, I knew who Charlie Kirk was and I watched some of his stuff, but I didn't know, like, I didn't watch a lot of his stuff. But, since his death, I bet you more people have watched his stuff than in ages. I guarantee you more people have watched his stuff in the last week since his death than when he was alive, which is crazy, you know? And the thing is, man, people are going to remember his name in history, dude. They'll remember his name. They ain't going to remember mine. They'll remember his, though.
side liked him, and people on the Republican side obviously liked him. But, you know, that was one of the most disturbing things I had ever seen in my life. The man is a husband, a father. Even if he wasn't, he's a human being. He's sitting there, he's engaging in conversations with people, and he was brutally murdered in front of his wife and children.
Yeah.
I'm not a sanctimonious guy. I dressed up as a dead healthcare CEO on Netflix. I'm not someone who is out there being a purveyor of good taste, but I just don't understand how, after witnessing that murder,
Because evil exists, guys. I mean, evil is a real thing. Some people live in this like bubble that I don't know, they live in this bubble where they just think everything is rainbows and gumdrops, and that's not the case. There's evil shit in the world. I think it would do good for all of us, probably male and female, to do like 1 year in a really shitty place like Afghanistan or Iraq, just so that we realize just exactly how good we got it over here. Because we really don't realize how good we got it. Now, the people like special forces guys, like Delta Force, Navy SEALs, they've been over there. They've seen how shitty it can be. You know, they know how good we got it. But for those of us that have never been out of the United States, we have no clue. You know, we're worried about what kind of car are we going to buy. Oh, it's so hard because we might actually have to go to the grocery store and actually go in and shop instead of ordering the shit online and have it delivered to your house. Man, they ain't got shit like that over in Afghanistan and Iraq. You're lucky if you find food. You might have to kill some people for some food. I mean, we just don't realize how good we got it, y'all.
you could be gleefully celebrating this attack. I think you're in a very bad place spiritually, in your life if you're celebrating the murder of
Yeah, your life would have to be really fucked up to be celebrating somebody else's death. I don't care if you agree with them or not, man. But to be celebrating somebody else's death, and a lot of people said that they didn't want that shown on YouTube, the actual video, but I actually think it needs to be shown, and I think more shit like that should be shown. Well, the reason I say that is because people need to realize that there is evil out in the world. There is stuff that we don't see every day, and if people started seeing this stuff, they would realize, hey, we need cops to a certain degree. Although I'm not a big fan of most cops, believe it or not, because most of them, when they put the uniform on, they think they're above the law and they're God. But that's a different story for another day. Anyways, but you get what I'm saying, right? There's just a lot of people just live in a bubble, man. They don't realize there's evil out there.
A person like that. I mean, again, this wasn't, a lot of what I do on the program, we make fun of the news, we make fun of what's happening. A lot of it's dark comedy. So I don't go out there and police people's reactions or tell them what to say. But if that's the first reaction you have to that video is to celebrate this, or I mean, you can't be doing great. You can't be doing great. If if you're celebrating the murder of this man,
Yeah, you'd have to be fucked in the
I
head.
don't think you're at a good place in your life. And, like I said, I saw the video. I watched it one time. I would not rewatch it. I found it to be, I didn't know what I was watching. I was on a plane to Austin.
You know what's crazy? I don't know if anybody knows this or not. So when I originally seen the video of him getting shot, what I had originally thought for the longest time is somebody had shot him through this side of the neck, and the bullet had come out this side, and then you had all the blood gushing down. That wasn't the case. I watched another guy that broke it down and put it in slow-mo. So he actually was wearing a chest armor protection. He was actually wearing a chest armor protection. But what happened, the bullet didn't, originally it looked like it went through one side, come out the other. That's not what happened. So the guy showed in slow motion, the bullet actually hit right at the very top of his chest plate. Like he said, if it would have hit it directly, it might not have killed him, but it hit just right on the top. And when it did, you could see his whole shirt lift up when the plate got hit. And the bullet basically hit the top of his plate and ricocheted up into his neck. Talk about shitty luck, man. They said that if the shot had been just a little bit lower, where it actually just hit directly on the chest plate, he might have been able to get out of there unscathed. But the fact that it didn't hit the chest plate, it like kind of caught the very top of it and ricocheted right up. And you can see it in slow motion. You can see when the bullet hits the chest plate actually, that's why his shirt bulges up. It's crazy. If there's any consolation though, is that at least if he even slightly knew what happened, it was for a split second, because he was like lights out that fast.
With Louis actually, and he was doing shows down there, and I saw this video and I was like, it was maybe the worst thing I have ever seen. When I picked up my phone, it was unbelievable. And a lot of people I know, people that I'm, in their orbit comedically or for whatever reason were, I understand people trying to be funny about terrible things. I understand failed attempts at making things funny. I've had them myself. I get it.
Yeah.
But some people, the joy, the glee, the delight in this man's assassination. Again, I don't understand how you can look at his wife who's collapsing in front of his casket, who's crying, where the children are asking where their father is. I cannot get to that place where I can understand.
Not if you have any emotion about you or any moral compass. But there is people out there. You take gang members that have seen violence all their life. To them, it would be nothing. There is certain people that are just desensitized to that shit. Military would be a prime example. The military guys, they see so much shit that they look at that Charlie Kirk thing and like, man, that's tame compared to what I've seen. I've seen people's heads cut off. I've seen dogs running with people's arms in the street. You know what I mean?
Enjoying that. And it scares me that there's a lot of people that are there. And people that I kind of somewhat know, not close friends, but like people that I am aware of and, have worked with and know from the life that I've lived. Like, I had disagreements with Charlie Kirk, some substantive ones. I have disagreements with most people. You do not have to agree with someone to not enjoy their murder. This is something that
Right.
should be obvious. You don't have to agree with someone to not delight in their murder. This guy's life was ended. His family was shattered. This is
Speaking of, not change the subject, y'all, but I heard I might be late to the party. I heard somebody say that Jimmy Kimmel was getting his show back. Is that true? Why would they give him his show back, man? I've never liked Jimmy Kimmel because of what he said or whatever. I heard what he said. I honestly don't even know if it was that bad, to be honest. I just never liked Jimmy Kimmel because I never found him funny. Like, he doesn't seem funny. I don't even know why they're letting him back on, honestly.
it's inhumane. And I understand that this is what's going to happen inevitably to people as the country drifts
Appreciate the follow, man.
into this kind of schizophrenic fever dream where nothing is real and people are, living online and they're radicalized and everyone's an enemy and everybody's dehumanizing them. And everybody feels for whatever reason that this type of thing is justified. And it's a terrible omen for the future of America if people think that a guy who's willing to sit at a campus and engage in debate with students should be assassinated. I can't understand that. That's not something that I'm open to understanding. I think it's a pathology. I don't think it's a political point of view when someone's head is blown off in front of their children, and for someone to say, "Oh, good." It's not a
Right.
political point of view. That's kind of a deeply destructive pathology. And I don't think that,
I can agree with that.
I understand, again, people trying to make a horrible situation funny and failing
Yeah.
and doing things that are in bad taste. I've done them myself. I get it. That's not really what I'm talking about here. That's not what I saw that was the most disturbing. What I saw that was the most disturbing was the complete delight and joy in seeing someone cut down like that. I don't agree with a lot of the people that run the state that I'm sitting in right now. It's California. I feel they've been incredibly destructive to my living in the sense that, like, I think they've ruined large swaths of the
Yeah.
most beautiful state.
California is a shithole now, y'all. California is a shithole. And YouTube don't like that shit because I did a video over there on California, and I titled it "California is a shithole," and they freaking copyright striked it. Can you believe that? Or said it wasn't appropriate. I'm like, you dickheads, you just didn't like what I had to say. But yeah, YouTube's definitely censoring people, which is kind of crazy, man. Because I've gotten copyright strikes for stupid stuff, and then they let the Charlie Kirk thing stay up there, showing him bleed out. You know what I mean? That's just
In
crazy.
the union, I think their policies have driven business out of the state. They've increased crime, and I agree with their policies on some things, right? Like I'm pro-choice, I'm pro-gay marriage, I'm pro, on a lot of the social issues, I have kind of a libertarian view. So like states like New York and California, I'll agree with them on certain things, and then on other things, I don't agree with them, right? I don't agree with like like pick a gender day in preschool
Pick,
or whatever's happening.
pick
Like
a gender day.
obviously there's things that I don't agree with at all. And I would never want any of the people that I disagree with to
If we were to ever go to war with any any country that could fight back, mm, well, be the out, guys. It's been a long day. If we could fight with any country that could actually fight back, like Russia, China, I think we would be so screwed because we have people in our military that are more worried about what gender they are than they are actually training or trying to get, gender transformation, whatever. We got people fighting about that in the military versus actual tactics. And honestly, I don't think our military is as strong as it used to be. Because I've noticed a lot less younger people, man, are going in. They're just like, fuck it. A lot of them seen that Afghanistan withdrawal, and they were like, nah. If they're gonna leave, they left 13 soldiers to get killed, and then they left all them civilian contractors over there. And God knows how many of them got killed. They've kept that pretty quiet. You don't hear shit about that. I guarantee you, a bunch of them got killed. That's crazy. That's why nobody wants to join.
die. I would never want any of the people who I politically disagree with on any issue to be shot in front of their children.
No,
I
that's just
I
dumb.
don't understand. I think you're at a place in your life. If you're enjoying that, you're at a very bad place in your life. You're
agree.
not at a good place in your life. I mean, that's all I can say. I don't know many well-adjusted, happy people with their own children, their own partner, wife, whatever, girlfriend, boyfriend, a dog you like. I
Right?
mean, anything.
Yeah.
Anything that you love or care about. I can't
Oh,
imagine someone with that type of life seeing that guy's body tense up and then and slump down, watching the last moments of his life and gleefully celebrating it. It just to me is I don't understand. I can't. I was looking at some of these things kind of shocked. And I'm not a sanctimonious guy. I'm not a guy that is offended by much. I'm almost offended by almost nothing. Not nothing, but when you're a person who's done comedy for years and you've been in
right.
this fucking world for years on the internet, you can't really be, sensitive. It
Sensitive.
doesn't
Yeah.
work. It's not, it's a
I have found that too, man. When I got on this streaming and YouTube journey, the Gangster Jeweler, my YouTube channel, and also Boss TV Live. When I got on this journey, man, I was like, one, I didn't realize how much work it really is, and two, I didn't realize how many fucking dickheads there are out there, y'all. There is a bunch of people that ain't got nothing else better to do than to critique every little thing you say or do. I mean, the internet it's trash. I'm not saying everybody on the internet's trash, but man, you see some of these comments and it's just these people, it's almost like their lives are miserable, so they gotta make everybody else's life miserable on the internet, which is weird. But yeah, when I started this streaming journey and I started the YouTube and all that shit, I had no idea what I was getting into, man.
it would be the death knell for whatever you wanted to do in any type of public life if you were sensitive or if you internalized everything or took everything to heart. I mean, that being said, when you see somebody, treating this like it's Christmas or, some of the reactions I've seen are from people that are deeply, 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 I guess, depressed, or they've become, they feel hopeless or helpless, and they're reacting in a kind of in a state of rage,
Right.
and they're not, and in that they're denying their humanity, and they're not thinking about things like a human being. I understand not liking someone. I understand thinking their policies make your life harder. I understand having fundamental disagreements with people. Fundamental disagreements, by the way, not like little things. I understand that there's people in my life I have fundamental disagreements with on major issues, big issues, and I still remain friends with them
Right.
because I believe that
Yeah, what happened to that? I mean, it wasn't that long ago, especially before the internet. If you disagree with somebody, unless they really, really stabbed you in the back, you could still be friends. You didn't have to agree on everything. Now, if they stabbed you in the back, that's a different story, you know? But whatever happened to that, man?
humanity is incredibly important, and that people respect the fact that people are human beings that come from different places, have different belief systems, have different faiths, have different ways of doing things. And when and Charlie Kirk was not a crazy extremist, he made it.
See, that's why, who I'm scared for? I'm actually scared for the comedians now, like Tim Dillon, any of them, Ron White, because when those guys, they get up on stage in front of all those people, and then when they're saying what they're saying about Charlie Kirk or whatever, and if somebody didn't like what they said, they don't have much security in them comedy clubs, man. They ain't got somebody scanning you, checking to see if you got a firearm or a knife on you. I mean, you just walk right in, go to your seat. I don't even, if I was a comedian, I think I'd be finding me a different profession, y'all. Because it's almost getting too dangerous just to even be standing up on stage in front of a crowd telling jokes. Shit, you might say the wrong joke and somebody get mad and pull their gun out and take you out for some stupid reason.
Inflammatory statements. A lot of people make inflammatory statements, but if you listen to the context and a lot of what he said, the guy was not like a psychopath. He had a definite belief system that, he sat down and talked with people about. If you're for the assassination of that person, I can't quite get into your head. I said this
Nah.
in
Hey, what's up,
2020 when
OpTVR?
people
Appreciate you
were
stopping in, man.
talking about the need for violence, not only protests, violence. And I said, this goes to a terrible place. If you stop having conversations, if you stop debating people, if you stop listening to people, or if you stop, America doesn't have to be any one thing. That's why there's 50 states, and people that live in San Francisco don't necessarily have to agree with people who live in Maryland or people who live in Texas or people who live in Wyoming. There are 50 state legislatures, 50 governors, there's a reason, and different states need different things, value different things, whatever.
Right.
I just can't see the value in celebrating someone's death. I mean, whenever there's a weapon, number one, everybody uses it. So anybody celebrating this, it will come for you. It will come for someone on your side eventually. I don't understand, but I don't think
Karma's a real thing, y'all. I've watched it firsthand. I've witnessed it firsthand. Sometimes it takes a week, sometimes it takes a couple months, sometimes it takes several years. But that shit always comes back to bite you in the ass. I learned that, man, just from personal experience. Whatever bad you put out into the universe, it will return the favor. That's just facts.
people are thinking about that. I think it's the raw, visceral feeling that someone that they viewed negatively's life was cut short, and they're enjoying that. And And it really is, it's fucked up. The interview we're doing is actually really disturbing. It's one of the more disturbing ones that I've done. And it's a viral article that is going viral after this. And it's trying to, again, it doesn't suggest that Charlie Kirk was murdered by Israel. But this article, which is going viral, is a disturbing portrait of a lot of the pressures that not only Charlie but other people were under. And another thing I just want to say, and before I go, because I know it's not like I mean, if I had a dispute with DoorDash and Kash Patel was investigating it, would I get the credit? Would I get the DoorDash credit if Kash Patel was tasked with an investigation? Would I get the DoorDash credit or would I not? I imagine I would not.
Probably not.
I imagine if there was a discrepancy on a DoorDash order, the head of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, Kash Patel, would not be able to secure my credit of $11.90.
We have got to the point where literally anybody can build a fully working app without knowing how to code. This
Doesn't that piss you off when you pay for something that ain't very expensive? Like say it's $10 and you can't get your money back, and you really can't do anything about it, because if you were to try to sue or get an attorney, it would cost way more than the $10 you're trying to get back. I don't think there's anything that infuriates people more when they spend something that's not a very big purchase, and then it turns out to not work or not be what it was advertised. They try to return it, and they're like, "Nope, we're sorry, can't give you your money back." I was like, "It's like what?"
What is this guy doing? I mean, the guy that did this to Charlie's, his parents turned him in. I mean, what could Kash Patel run? This is kind of an interesting question. What organization could Kash Patel run credibly? I don't know. Anyway, Max Blumenthal. Morgan & Morgan is America's largest personal injury law firm. We've talked about them so many times on the show because Morgan & Morgan is a pound law, pound spontaneous moment. Options.
No, we got to skip through that.
Effect, you know.
All right, let's see.
Utah coming on the Gray Zone. Thank you very much for coming on. You wrote an article that's going viral. You wrote it with your wife, Anya Parampil, about, obviously this horrific event that happened in Utah. And you were describing, firsthand accounts of things that Charlie had told his close friends in the weeks leading up to his death. And a lot of it concerned the pressure that was being put on him by Israeli billionaires for questioning some of the things happening in Gaza, and then as well some of the new anti-Semitism laws. And how did you put together this story? I mean, I know you don't ask a journalist to reveal their sources, but how exactly do you compile this piece?
Well, just to answer your question before I get into the piece, I have been following Charlie Kirk for 10 years, since almost soon after he started TPUSA when he was a teenager.
Yo, is he like a stalker? Is he a stalker, y'all? You've been following him for 10 years? What? No, I'm sure he's not a stalker, but I mean, he's a journalist. He's been following his life, I guess, but still, that's crazy to be following somebody for that long.
And I was following him as a critic or an opponent. I saw him as this kind of very hardworking, highly articulate, sort of like superhuman, ultra conservative operative that the Israel lobby had basically hijacked, and they were using him to create the biggest Republican or conservative youth movement in history, TPUSA, and use it to advance Israel's program in the US alongside all of the kind of conservative social issues he wanted to push, and recruit the youth and train them and make sure that they stayed completely aligned with Benjamin Netanyahu's Israel. And these billionaire donors, they're American, but they're loyal to Israel primarily, and they actually don't care about issues.
Do you guys believe this shit? Are you guys buying this? What's y'all's opinion? I don't know if I'm buying this guy. He sounds like he didn't like Charlie Kirk. Stalking him for 10 years. I don't know, maybe this is true, but sounds suspect.
Like abortion or LGBTQ, or maybe some of them don't like mass immigration because they think immigrants might turn against Israel, but their issue is Israel. And Charlie Kirk was going to advance that for them. And in exchange, he'd be built up as like the biggest conservative youth leader in history. So I've been following him for 10 years. I have no reason to say anything. Obviously, I was horrified by his killing. And I think it's a terrible omen for this country, but I have no reason to say anything positive about him or to think that he was anything less than a complete cadre for the Israel lobby. And
Ah, dude, this guy don't like Charlie Kirk. He's like, I don't think he should have been killed, but I don't like him. I mean, you don't have to agree with him, I guess.
they basically owned him. They basically controlled him.
Well,
And he started to move away. And I was hearing about, just to tell you about
yeah.
how this kind of this article came into being, I was hearing about this before he was killed, that something through the grapevine. I mean, I grew up in Washington. I've been in the city, so people talk. And honestly, even though I'm more from the left, people from the Trump administration and around the Trump administration talk more to us than the Biden administration did. They talk more to alternative media. So I was hearing about the pressure that Charlie Kirk was under in the months before he was killed. This was not unfamiliar to me, and so I decided to go back to some sources that we had and ask what was, for more details.
Well, even as somebody who you were a political opponent of his, it's obvious, seeing a lot of people gleefully celebrating his vicious murder, obviously you don't have to agree with someone to not delight in their murder. I mean, I've been surprised, friends of mine, people that I know, and their reactions to this have actually shocked me and shaken me a little bit. I want to get back to this turn that he makes. Do you have a timestamp on when he's starting to question really Israeli influence in American domestic politics? Because I'm reading your article and you talk about, your source is talking about Charlie kind of starting to question the amount of influence that Israel has in U.S., not only domestic politics, but foreign politics as well. Do you put this right around the time that we attack Iran? Is this before that? Is this after that? How, what do you know about his progression?
Let me just close a window here because I have some noise coming in.
Talk about being ill prepared for a interview. Why didn't you just should have had the window closed already, dude? Nah, he probably thought it'd be a good idea, and then somebody probably fired a lawnmower up, bothering the shit out of him now.
He never comes back. No.
So yeah, I'll come.
Yeah. Okay.
So this is one of the most fascinating stories I've witnessed in American politics. It could be the theme of a film or a documentary or a book. Charlie Kirk began coming under pressure from his own base. I would say, I actually, for forgot which year it was, but it was like 3 or 4 years ago. And it was called the Groyper Wars. And Charlie Kirk would do these TPUSA tours around the country, and young men would file in, and they would, you get to question Charlie Kirk and debate him. And they hit him from an angle he never expected. They were from this organization called the Groypers, which sort of follows Nick Fuentes. They're anti-Israel. They're kind of anti-Jewish. Some people call them white nationalists, whatever you want to call them. They're very anti-Israel, and they believe they're the true voice of
Mm.
America first, because the U.S. government has fallen under the control of this malign foreign power in Israel. And so they would confront Charlie Kirk with the history of, for example, the USS Liberty, the U.S. naval ship that was deliberately struck by the Israeli military in the 1967 war in order to cripple that boat because it was a surveillance boat. It was listening to Israeli communications.
Hmm.
I thought I knew what therapy was
So I didn't
until
know
I
nothing about
found
that.
the right therapist. And let me tell you,
And they killed scores of sailors, and they would confront Charlie Kirk with the difference between Israeli interests and American interests while holding up a cross. And Charlie Kirk would just shut down the conversation because he knew that if he would give an inch to them, it would threaten the relationship with his donors, and TPUSA would collapse. Now, after October 7th, the pressure was just too extreme. The whole grassroots of the conservative movement.
As much as I hate to say this, man, I liked Charlie Kirk, but some of this might be true to a degree. Because I know Charlie Kirk, he lived with his parents for the longest time. He did not come from money. He didn't have money to start out, and it is kind of weird that he was able to grow TPUSA. Who was funding that? Because somebody was funding it. That's very, very interesting. I've never looked at it that way, really. Because I know his parents didn't fund it. They didn't have the money. So somebody had to give the money to turn that thing into what it became. Although I think, I like Charlie as a person, but if he had a bunch of donors, who are they? That's a good question.
Everyone under 35 started to question the US Israel relationship because they wanted to be America first. And they saw Netanyahu just leading Trump around by the balls. They saw Miriam Adelson,
Say
this
leading him around
Israeli
by the
intelligence
balls.
asset billionaire, just calling shots inside the White House. And a lot of them are pro life and were horrified by the slaughter of babies that they saw in Gaza. So the bottom dropped out of right wing youth support for Israel to the point where now only about 25% of Republicans under 35 support Israel over Palestine. So Charlie Kirk has
Mm.
to answer to his own grassroots base. And you can hear he's starting to make some noises. He's talking about October 7th possibly being an inside job. Israel let it happen in order to carry out long-term political goals. He starts to question whether Jeffrey Epstein was an Israeli Mossad agent at a time when the Epstein files were becoming an uncomfortable issue for Trump. And it all blew out into the open at TPUSA's July Youth Summit in, I believe it was Tampa, Florida.
Yeah.
Might have been Tallahassee.
Yeah, Tucker gave the speech.
Right.
Right.
So Tucker gave a speech. I mean, that was the seminal moment, but it wasn't just Tucker. Megyn Kelly had started questioning Israel, and she's on stage calling Jeffrey Epstein a Mossad agent with Charlie.
Mm.
Comic Dave Smith, who, like myself, is a Jewish anti-Zionist, but he more comes from kind of the libertarian world. So he was welcomed on stage to debate a Zionist propagandist who works for Newsweek, Joshua Hammer. Debate, no, that's not something you want, especially at this point, if you are like a pro-Israel enforcer. And Dave Smith was openly talking about the slaughter of children in Gaza, and the crowd was cheering in this cathartic way. Then Tucker comes out, says, you should have your citizenship yanked if you fight for a foreign army. All right. Hundreds and hundreds, thousands of American Jewish youth go to Israel and fight for their army instead of our own. So that's a direct blow to not just the Israel lobby, but like the whole concept of Jewish communal life as it's understood by its leadership. Then Tucker calls out Bill Ackman, who's one of the biggest
Isn't that crazy? Imagine being born in the United States and saying, you know what, I don't even like our government. I don't even like the United States. I'm not going to join the military for them. I'm going to go join Israel's military. That's I don't know if that's a good smart move or not, honestly. But just imagine that, be like, my country, my government sucks so bad. I'm gonna go join another country's military. Fuck this place.
who money men inside the US who's pulling strings at Harvard, getting their funding pulled unless they crack down on Palestine activism. And he questions he calls him a scam artist and said, how did he make $9 billion? Like, where did it come from? I mean, and Bill Ackman, the next day, he couldn't really answer the question. He published like a 5,000 word meltdown Twitter post trying to defend his financial investments. It was just bonkers. I'd never seen anything like it. And it was all Charlie Kirk's fault for sanctioning, for giving basically the people what they wanted. And after that, he started getting publicly attacked. Ben Shapiro and Mark Levin, the two biggest Zionist enforcers in the media, who are very close to Netanyahu, biggest forces lobbying Trump to wage war on Iran, went off on TPUSA, said we can't be having a Big Ten if it includes kooks. Laura Loomer, we all know who she is. She publicly attacked Charlie Kirk and said he basically had to step down. He was getting attacked in pro-Israel media. What we didn't know, which I learned, is in private, the pressure was even more intense. He was being bombarded with text messages. And at some point, Netanyahu personally called him and offered to basically fund his organization to new levels that he never even imagined, which meant, you know, Zionist Israeli takeover, complete like recapture of TPUSA, an organization they basically helped create. And Charlie Kirk turned him down. Now, after Charlie Kirk was killed, we know that Netanyahu wouldn't stop posting about him. Like minutes after he was killed, when his body was still warm, Netanyahu was posting about him, interrupting his seven-front war in the Middle East and his global assassination spree, where he's trying to kill people even inside a U.S. ally in Qatar.
Can you remember any?
Now, wouldn't that be crazy? Yeah, I mean, I know this sounds very outlandish. And look, I liked Charlie Kirk as a person, as a human being, and I liked a lot of stuff he said. I'm not going to say everything was right, but what if this guy's right? What if Netanyahu did help him fund TPUSA, and then when it got big, Netanyahu called him and said, "Hey, we want to take control of it," and he said, "I don't think so." And then maybe somehow they paid this kid or got a hold of this kid to have him do what he did in Utah. That would be a crazy, crazy thing, man. But this guy might be full of shit too, for all we know. You know, I don't know, but I have an open mind. I'm open to all different things. It could be plausible. It doesn't. I mean, it sounds a little outlandish, but not overly outlandish.
Time that in the history of a political assassination that the leader of a foreign government has come out to deny that they were behind it. I mean,
I've never seen anything like that.
Right. I mean,
And
yeah.
I mean, it was so Netanyahu has to ultimately deny that Israel was involved in an interview on Newsmax with Greta Van Susteren. Newsmax is another like institution that Israel controls. Its CEO, Chris Ruddy, was just in Israel with Netanyahu, basically shining his shoes in public. So Netanyahu goes there and says, this is like to accuse us of killing Charlie Kirk or having a role in this is like a medieval blood libel and the Holocaust. And when Netanyahu says that, it probably leads some Gentiles to wonder if there was something to those blood libels. I mean, when someone that sleazy and that blood-soaked links innocent Jews to the murderous campaign that Israel's carrying out, it's bad. It's actually bad for the Jews when he says that. But I've never seen anything like this. And I'd never seen anything like what Netanyahu was doing relating to a tragedy or a crime in the United States since 9/11. Netanyahu blamed Muslims for Charlie Kirk's killing explicitly on Fox News. He was trying to milk it as much as he could, but it blew back on him because he's become a prime suspect. But after 9/11, Netanyahu said in comments widely reported in Israeli media, you can look this up. He said 9/11 was good for Israel. And it's the same way that he saw Charlie Kirk's killing as being good for Israel. He thought he actually probably thought a Muslim was responsible. And he thought he could blame the left and the Palestine Solidarity Movement and get them shut down by the FBI. And
Is any of this shit true, y'all? Are y'all believing any of this shit? I mean, some of this sounds, I'm not saying it's not possible, but some of this stuff sounds very outlandish. Let me know in the chat if y'all, if y'all are buying any of this shit, because I don't know. So, like, I'm on board with them with some things and some things not so much. Like, as soon as it seems like he's back on track, then he kind of derails again. Something weird.
so, in a way, he was kind of thrilled by what had happened. And that fuels the speculation. But the real issue was, as we learned from a longtime friend of Charlie Kirk, who had spoken to him, I would say, a week or two before he was killed about this, he was afraid of Netanyahu and he was afraid of these billionaire cutouts of Netanyahu, who had many of whom had funded his organization.
So
And I've since learned more.
let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
What would he be afraid of? I mean, obviously, you have an organization that's well funded by people that expect something for their money, right? They're not giving it to you for free. Did you get the feeling that he was only afraid of reputational damage or, losing money, or did his fears extend to his life?
Well, that's what Harrison Smith, who is a personality at InfoWars, the pro-Trump outlet, has said, based on a source he spoke to. I don't know him. I don't know what source he spoke to, but he said this on August 13th. So almost a month before Charlie Kirk was killed, he said Charlie Kirk fears that Israel will kill him if he continues ahead, providing space in the largest conservative youth organization in American history, which is the institutional grassroots apparatus of Trump and the Republican Party, for Israel critics and even anti-Zionists. So that
I don't know. Is that true? Do you guys believe that? What do y'all think? Because I don't know, man. That's I don't know. If it's true, I would think the FBI would be able to hopefully find out if Israel had anything to do with it. But that would be crazy if somehow that kid was tied to Israel, Israel ties, and they like paid him, or he just said, "No, I'll do it for free," whatever.
I didn't say that. I don't have I can't see any hard material evidence that Israel had him killed, but there's this fear when you go against the Israel lobby and you're that powerful. And it's a fear that I've been told Donald Trump shares. I've been told that by
that was my next question.
Several Trump insiders.
My next question is, does the president of the United States fear for his life?
Well, sure.
That
Hold on, let's get through this ad.
You can sneak through this hidden entrance to trigger a
But
combat
of course
dungeon. Most players
he fears for his life. He barely dodged a bullet at a rally. Then they tried to kill him on the golf course. So yeah, of course he fears for his life. They tried to kill him like 3 times.
Yes. Yes, I mean, obviously he fears for his life. And I was told that he feared for his life before the 2 assassination attempts, one coming within a millimeter of striking his head. I mean, let's not forget about that.
But I mean, just to clarify, he doesn't fear for his life because of Ireland.
I mean, I've been told, yes, that Israel is a major source of concern for Trump. I mean, think about it. What would happen
this
if
is
the
our
president
ally.
just if he
That's why I'm
suspended arms
confused.
to
Yeah.
if he suspended arms to a country that carries out assassinations all across the globe, that specializes in assassinations, that has an entire wing of its intelligence services that conducts assassinations, including with household goods like pagers, would you not be scared? So yes, Trump is scared. And what I learned from this source, who is a Trump insider, someone who talks to who talks to people in the Oval Office, people close to Trump, is that during one of Netanyahu's many visits to the U.S. this year, some figures in his retinue, Israeli agents, placed electronic devices on emergency response Secret Service vehicles. The Secret Service found them and they reported this to the White House. These would be emergency response vehicles that would respond to an incident potentially involving the president. All right, some people watching this might be dismissing me as crazy right now, and I wasn't
I
able
know
to
it.
confirm this. I can't just call up the Secret Service and have
Yeah, it does. Some of this sounds a little crazy and outlandish, but it could be true. I mean, we don't know. I'm willing to keep an open mind here.
them tell me that. But in 2019, 3 former high-ranking U.S. officials from the Trump administration told Politico that listening devices were found around the White House and at sensitive locations across Washington targeting President Trump. They wanted to listen to his calls and communications, and they were planted by Israel. You just go look that up while I'm speaking right now. Boris Johnson, the former Israeli prime minister, wrote in his memoirs that Benjamin Netanyahu asked to use his bathroom, his personal toilet, and that British security found a listening device planted in his personal toilet immediately after Netanyahu left. So Netanyahu himself dropped a listening device in the British prime minister's toilet. Like, never
What?
let Netanyahu take a dump at your house.
Let me ask you a question. In your estimation, why do things like this not damage relations between the U.S. and Israel more, or the U.K. and Israel? When an ally is found to be, now everybody spies on everybody, but when you are putting a listening device in the prime minister's bathroom, or you're putting, reportedly putting tracking devices on Secret Service emergency response vehicles, where is the fallout from that? Is there any? Is there any diplomatic fallout from that?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, think of all the things Israel does. Israel just is seeking to drag the U.S. into an all-out war with Iran. Where's the fallout from that? The fallout is among the people. It's among the young people who watch your show, who follow social media, who don't need a weatherman to know which way the wind blows. Like, they're paying attention,
Right.
and they have almost no power in this country on this issue because of Israel's ethno-supremacist bribery network known as AIPAC, which controls Congress with a hammerlock. Look at like 2 of the few voices in Congress who spoke out about these issues.
Marjorie
Cori
Bush was kicked out.
and Jamal Bowman
Kicked
were
out.
both kicked out. But AIPAC spent almost $20 million, and they were like backbenchers. Like, their own campaigns, they probably spent like $100,000, and they spent $20 million, like Super Bowl style ads against them.
Yeah.
And none of the ads even mentioned Israel once. And they come up with these fake stealth packs like Americans for Democracy in their district. So you don't even know it's an AIPAC ad.
Smart.
And now they're going after Thomas Massey.
And
Thomas
Marjorie.
Massey
No?
And Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yeah, okay.
Marjorie Taylor Greene's safer in her district, but who is paying for the campaign against
Yeah,
Thomas
man. Look,
Massey? It's Miriam Adelson
You just got to
and Paul
follow the
Singer.
money.
Paul Singer is another ultra Zionist billionaire who is basically
Just follow. Who's basically Marco Rubio's pimp? What? Marco Rubio's pimp. Man, I don't care who it is. I don't at this point, I don't care if it's Republican or Democrat. I lean more conservative, but I think all politicians are corrupt in one way, shape, or form. They're all corrupt. Which is crazy, because the founding fathers of our nation, they wanted to get away from that kind of shit, and now it's like we kind of still have it, you know?
like Marco Rubio's pimp. He owns Marco Rubio. He's a vulture capitalist who runs Elliott Capital Management. And he's very involved in Venezuela as well. So these guys are running the show.
So let me ask you a question. Trump is elected 2024. Miriam Adelson's a huge donor, among others, right? Bill Ackman's probably is another big donor. Is the understanding, we gave you a bunch of money. You're going to let us do anything we want. And is there kind of a veiled threat that, spoken or unspoken, that hangs in the air around Epstein in your estimation? And the Epstein files and the nature of the relationship between Jeffrey Epstein potentially and Israeli intelligence. What exactly, how does that factor into what we're seeing now with shaping a narrative? It seems like that lobby is losing control of the narrative quickly, certainly with younger people, but with a lot of people. The rise of independent media, the sheer audacity.
I think legacy media, like the CNNs, the Fox News, MSNBC, CBS, all them news stations, I think they're eventually going to go out of business. Because with the internet now and podcasts, a lot of people like to see long form conversations and not these 30-minute bits. They like to hear the whole story, not just the side of the story the news wants you to hear. Mm, You know what I mean? So I think legacy media is going to go. I think before it's over with, they're going to go bankrupt. Ain't nobody going to be watching them anymore. Everybody going to be watching Joe Rogan and Tim Dillon.
With which that AIPAC and people like that are behaving, Netanyahu. What role do you think uncovering the truth about Epstein plays in the fear in the White House? Are they afraid to release this stuff? Are they implicated in this stuff? Is it both? And was this something where it was understood that they were there to extend the cover up? What do you think this is?
Well, Trump has personally said that he's concerned about all of the files and the names of clients being released, or not necessarily clients, but associates, because it will smear some very good people. I mean, he said that on the record, and he thinks he's one of them. He was very closely associated with Jeffrey Epstein. And this was the first time I've ever seen the Teflon Don get his mystique actually broken. It was all over Jeffrey Epstein, but it's not just about Jeffrey Epstein or one man. I think it's dangerous to go too far down the rabbit hole on Jeffrey Epstein, but we do need to acknowledge there was a strong Israeli connection there. Jeffrey Epstein was working with Ehud Barak, former Israeli prime minister, defense minister, most decorated soldier in Israeli history, on spinning out a series of security companies that were going to compete with the big leaguers like Palantir. Barak was at his townhouse over 50 times. He had met with Shimon Peres, former Israeli prime minister. He had met with Ehud Olmert, former prime minister. He'd set up meetings between J.P. Morgan and Benjamin Netanyahu. And he was a pro-Israel guy who was close to Alan Dershowitz too, who's like considered sort of Israel's propaganda lawyer. So Jeffrey Epstein's sort of a stand-in for everything that frustrates people, especially younger people in this country, about this two-tiered legal and political system where there's a kind of a class of 0.1 percenters who exist completely above the law, who are like molesting people and carrying out all sorts of sordid financial crimes and bribery and manipulating institutions, buying CBS News and propagandizing the public in support of a genocide. It's sort of like Jeffrey Epstein perfectly embodies the most disgusting specter or figure of this entire network that we have been sort of forbidden from talking about for so many years. And now, I mean, it's like as long as there is a
It is very weird, because look, man, I voted for Trump, okay? I voted for Trump, but, there's a but here. There is something that's very fishy that I'm not quite getting, and I don't know if we'll ever know. I know Trump, when he was running for office, he said, and this is pretty much quote, he said that he wanted, first thing he was going to do when he got in office is he wanted all the names in the Epstein file released, if there was like a book that had a list of names, and he was going to do that like in the first week. And it's very funny that since they've been in there, I hadn't really heard a whole lot about it. Now, I know there's been more important things like the Charlie Kirk assassination. I get that. They were friends or close to him, whatever. And other things with Russia launching missiles into Poland, stuff like that. So I get it. There's been some other important issues to handle. But it's very weird that has kind of like been buried a little bit. Like you don't hear much about it. You don't hear much about it even in the other side news, Democratic news, whether it be CNN or CBS or Fox. It don't matter which side. You, it's almost like they just cut that story off. You don't even hear about it anymore.
in apartheid Israel, we're going to be waking up every day on social media and seeing images of shredded children, and our legislatures are going to be filled with bills that will prevent us from doing anything about it. So the frustration only continues to build as Donald Trump seems to block the release of the Epstein files. Did you notice? This is so crazy. On the day Charlie Kirk was shot, and I mean, take this out if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm right.
No, I think you're right. I think I know what you're about to say. They voted, right?
The Senate voted to not release the Epstein files, and
Right.
it was like a straight party line vote.
Yeah. This is not
No
good
one,
for American.
no one paid attention.
This is not good for American Jews. A lot of my Jewish friends are not, they want Netanyahu out. They think that they've made a wrong turn, obviously, in the years after October 7th. What do you think the temperature is like right now between the Trump administration and Israel? Is this an unbreakable bond that is being enforced by a fear, a mutually assured destruction? What is the likelihood of us going into Iran again? What is the likelihood of us doubling down? I mean, there's a huge project now, or will be a very huge construction project, I believe, in Gaza. I mean, they're moving people out of Gaza. They're going to build a new Gaza. Is the United States going to be providing peacekeeping? Is it going to be NATO peacekeeping forces? Is it going to be U.S. contractors? Going to be boots on the ground? Are we going to be funding it? What do you know about what's coming next? What's the next phase of what happens there?
Well, with Gaza, it's not a construction project; it's a destruction project.
Well, right, but
And
it
all
will
of
be
those-
eventually. I mean, they're trying to move them out to do something.
Right. They're trying to move them out to, in what they call in Israel, Judaize the place, especially the north of Gaza. And the religious nationalist movement in Israel, the settlers, they want that land. They fought hard for it in this war, in this genocide. and they have Netanyahu under their thumb. I mean, they are the linchpin to his political coalition. There's not all those shiny pictures that you see and all the plans for the Gaza Riviera that make it look like Dubai. That's not going to be
But
happening for
but here again, I understand what they're saying, but what about the Bible, y'all? In the Bible it says, anybody that kills Jews goes after Jews. You need to get rid of them. So if you believe in the Bible, I don't know. Who's right or who's wrong? I don't know. Wouldn't it be crazy if we all die and then find out that everything in the Bible was a lie? Like like maybe there is no God and you just float around in the universe, go wherever you want to go. I don't think that's true. I think there has to be a God of some sort. I don't know really what that looks like. I mean, I have an idea, but for us to have humans created, all the animals that we have, the way the planets are situated, the sun, that shit don't disappear on accident. At least I wouldn't think so. And for it to maintain that consistency for thousands of years. You know what I mean? So there's definitely a higher power. We just don't know exactly what that looks like. But I understand there's innocent Palestinians being killed too. I get it. But, in the Bible it says, hey man, anybody who attacks Jews, that according to Jesus anyways, that was his Jerusalem, that was his place. He said anybody that attacks my people, get rid of them. I'm not saying that. The Bible says that, okay?
any Palestinians or non-Jews. That's not what's going to happen. The plan is to ethnically cleanse as many of them as possible, to even incentivize them to go out and give them subsidies to go out. But Israel does not want them there. The Gaza
Mm.
Strip, what was it? 85% refugees who were kicked off their land in 1948 when Israel was founded. 750,000 people were ethnically cleansed in 1948. And so many of them went to Gaza and then they were just warehoused there. I've been to Gaza twice. When you go into Gaza, the first thing you see in the buffer zone when you cross in from an Israeli military base is a remote controlled machine gun on a gigantic wall that stretches as far as you can see, pointing into Gaza. That's the world they were living in before October 7th, 2023. They were closed off from the outside world. And then they had this gigantic violent rebellion led by Hamas, and Israel's decided they must all go and they have to go through Egypt. So that's just as bluntly as I can put it. And it will be the crime of the century to watch 2 million people just be scattered like the wind into the world. And where will they go? Will they go to Europe? Will they go to the United States? People who have lived through one of the most horrific genocidal wars we've ever seen. What kind of mentality will they be bringing with them? Will it be good for those societies? Well, it's Israel that is pushing that on the rest of the world. So, if you're worried about,
yeah, two related.
If you're worried about the border now,
right? Yeah,
I mean, consider what Israel's got coming for you. And
right.
Although I think we should welcome people who have nowhere else to go. They should be in their homes.
Well, I think we should stop destroying their countries, and then they'd have a place to go.
And
that would be my
Iran.
Right.
Really
that would be
Iran.
Your question, Iran. What do you think the likelihood is that we get into another war with Iran? And is that 99%. Why? Is that why? Is the Israeli government right now lobbying the Trump administration actively to go back into Iran? Is this something that you know or are hearing from anyone?
Yes, and also from sources in Iran. They're prepared for this. They think that this will happen 100%. I would say 99% just because I always like to hedge, but my friends in Iran, who are just sort of regular people, tell me their whole society believes this is going to come in any weeks from now.
Why do you think this all needs to happen now? Ethnically cleansing of Gaza now, the war with Iran now. Do you think Israel's looking at America and going, we're in trillions of dollars of debt, where, maybe we'll default on the debt, maybe the dollar is going to fall, maybe our standing in the world is going to collapse, and they need to get everything out of us right now? Like, doesn't it feel to you like,
Yeah, like America's fixing to collapse and we need to get what we can get out of them now. That could very well be true, y'all. That makes sense to me. But here again, it's hard to say it's hard to know what the truth is when you got so many different sources, each side saying something different. It's really hard to pick out what's really true and what isn't, you know what I mean?
there's an immediacy to what is happening? And I could be wrong about this, but like, it does feel to me that they're like, we need all of it now. It needs to happen now. We need to, not only the cleansing of Gaza, but we need the Iranian regime moved now. We need to bomb Syria and all of these places right now. It does seem like, are they looking at the tide of populism around the world going, we're not going to be able to get this kind of money in 10 years? Are they looking at America's financial standing and going, it's an inevitability that we're not going to have the money to give them? What exactly is it about this moment where everything needs to happen now? By the way, even though they're losing standing with every demographic in America, they're losing respect, or they're losing control of the narrative, but they're still pushing ahead in a very aggressive way. What is it about this moment that it all needs to happen now?
That's a great question. And as you said, Israel can see the writing on the wall in the West, where a new generation is rising and turning against it simply because they are sick of the slaughter, the manipulation, and the censorship. But there's a new world rising.
Look, I understand that Israel's might be going a little overboard over in Gaza, but I have sympathy for the innocent people in Gaza, but at the same time, I also understand Israel's the one that was attacked first. What about the 2,000? I know they've killed way more in Gaza than the 2,000 that Hamas killed, but still, that's what started this whole ordeal. Why don't we talk about that as well? Because I don't even think Israel was looking for a war until Hamas came in. Now that may have just been a perfect excuse for them to take over Gaza or try to take over Gaza. They've been like, this is perfect. Now we have a reason to do what we're doing, but still, we got to remember Hamas is the one that went into Israel first. I understand the innocent people didn't, but hey, you got to check your own government, man. Sometimes if you can't check your own government, it is what it is, I guess.
Rising in China, there's a new world rising in Iran, which is at the center of Eurasia. And a new world that is rising is not a world that America dominates. And then in Washington, this relates to this just brings it all back home to Charlie Kirk. They have Donald Trump completely under their control in a way that they have never controlled a US president. And every president has basically given Israel what it wanted. But with Trump, there are simply no red lines. And after having demonstrated in Gaza that they could get away with anything they wanted, Netanyahu, who is nearing the end of his own life, who is the most historically significant Israeli prime minister since the founding prime minister, David Ben-Gurion, and has served longer than Ben-Gurion, who is actually someone from the United States, who speaks English as his native language, who grew up in Philadelphia, went to MIT, worked at Boston Consulting. He sees that this is the last moment before Trump leaves the stage where he can get everything he wants in his dream for his entire political career was to destroy Iran, regime change in Iran. And he believes if he can achieve regime change in Iran, then all of his problems in the region will, and Israel's problems in the region will disappear, and Israel will be secure and consolidate its strategic depth for eternity. So Netanyahu he wants to leave this world with that as his legacy, but he cannot accomplish that in Iran, as we just saw from the last 12-day war, without the US military. And so he has to manipulate the United States into not just striking Iran and sending a stealth bomber over there for some top.
But you know what? He's not wrong. I'm not talking about this guy. I'm talking about Benjamin Netanyahu. He's not wrong because if they could get Iran under control, because Iran funds a lot of the bullshit that goes over there or goes on over there, like ISIS, Hamas, whoever else. They've had so many of them now. Al Qaeda. Um, a lot of that shit's coming from Iran. Iran's funding all that shit. So he's not wrong. If they could get the leadership out of Iran, get that whole thing changed over, it very well could make that whole area much better. Now, I don't think you're ever going to get rid of it though, because you go back to the Bible, that area has always been in some kind of conflict. Like they've always been over ideologies, religion. I mean, I don't think you'd ever stop war over there. I don't think you would. But I understand his point, though, that a lot of it comes from Iran. So if you can get Iran under control, that might tone a lot of that shit down. I don't think you'll get rid of all of it, but a big majority of it. So, I mean, Benjamin not yet Netanyahu's not, I wouldn't say he's 100% wrong on that theory.
Gun style raid, but boots on the ground, all out war, just like an unprecedented slaughterhouse. And we're going to see tens of thousands of American troops killed for Netanyahu's dream if it's able to go through. And so every time Netanyahu strikes Iran and tries to turn up the temperature in the region, it's always to get the US involved. And it's bad for the US, it's bad for Jews, it's bad for the global economy and therefore the world. And that is why I'm always talking about this and why I think people need to understand the danger.
What do you think happens if they can't? Obviously there's members of the Trump administration that do not want to go along with this. I would say probably Trump's one of them. I don't think he sees a good domestic political outcome of going to war with Iran. What lengths are they willing to go to make this happen?
Well, I think attacking Iran in an unprovoked fashion, killing nuclear scientists, attempting to kill, I don't know, the supreme leader of Iran, Ayatollah Khamenei, that would be the most extreme thing possible. And it would lead to a catastrophic eruption of violence that would draw the US in.
Do you think Israel's planning to attack Iran?
Yes.
How soon do you think that's going to happen?
Fairly soon, because of the window I mentioned with Donald Trump, the midterms coming up. Also, Iran is restoring its air defenses.
Right.
They may be importing.
Iran knows something's coming. This is obvious.
Yeah. So they can't allow Iran to rebuild its ballistic missile capacity. They know that the enriched uranium is out there somewhere, but they may not know where. They're afraid of nuclear scientists learning how to develop weapons, so they want to kill them all. It's very maniacal, and Israel really feels like this is it. Like they are at an existential moment. That's why they're, weaponizing Barry Weiss to take over CBS News. That's why you feel so much pressure in our own society, because Israel feels like after October 7th, they have to get this done now.
Here's my thing with CBS News. Yeah. It's a very powerful tool, I guess, when you're talking about boomers, but it has absolutely no relevance to anybody that's under the age of 65 years old. You know what I mean? When you see, I guess,
he's like, hold on, let me put you in check there, buddy. Let me put you in check. Anybody under 65 is not watching CBS News. He ain't right. He ain't wrong on that. That's crazy.
Ellison is now thinking of buying Warner Brothers, right? CNN. I mean, they're thinking about. Sanders just talked about it. His group is buying. What is it? Correct me here. They're Paramount and they're buying. They own Paramount, they own CBS, and now they're trying to acquire Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
Okay. So I like Barry. I mean, I think Barry's fun. I don't know how much, Barry enjoys me at the moment, but she did at one point. But she has an agenda. It's very clear. It's a very clear agenda, is that she's deeply supportive of kind of this Israel at all costs policy. And they're going to install her at CBS.
Yep.
Yeah, as the ombudsman. So she'll be, I guess, tasked with determining the tone of the foreign policy coverage on CBS, domestic policy coverage, all of the coverage.
Presumably,
Yeah.
and they just installed this figure. I think his name is Keith Weissman as the ombudsman, who will basically neutralize the news division. And he is an Israel lobbyist himself, who worked at this neocon think tank, the Hudson Institute the Hudson Institute in Washington. So it's very clear what their agenda is, and I'm just pointing to it as a sign of desperation and not necessarily a sign of total control.
Well, the thing is that what I've seen over the last 6 months to a year, a lot of people are getting radicalized and they're going to very bad places, right? We don't want a bunch of people in America to become Nazis, obviously. We don't want people to become fascists. We don't want people to embrace pathological behavior. We don't
Barry Weiss does,
Yeah,
and Israel does, because it reinforces Israel as a sanctuary for Jews. They want anti-Semitism in this country, and it also fuels their the ADL's fundraising. So we have to resist that.
Yes. Well, Max Blumenthal, do you, the source that you
guys agree
spoke
with
to,
this?
I guess, for this piece, does that source believe that there's any potential, and I don't know if you covered this or not with the source, do they believe there's any potential that in any way forces outside of this gunman were responsible for Charlie Kirk's assassination? I don't know if you covered that or not.
I mean, I state clearly in this piece that I have no evidence of an Israeli government.
Yes, did the source, I understand that. Did your source, who is a highly placed Trump confidant of some kind, do they, I don't know if you can make an inference or if they had said anything to you, but like, were they considering that as a possibility?
Yes, I would say they don't accept the official story, or no one even knows what the official story is.
So a highly placed person in the Trump inner circle doesn't believe the official story of Charlie's murder.
I mean, no one does, but I would just say that the phrase I remember.
There's, I said the same thing. Like, I understand the kid probably is the one that pulled the trigger, but there's got to be somebody behind that. There's got to be more to it than just that. I don't know if we'll ever find out, but I think there's a bigger picture. But yeah, I said that myself right after he was shot. I said, yeah, the kid may have pulled the trigger, but I don't think it was just some random kid that just didn't like Charlie Kirk. I think there had to be an organization or money or something behind it.
We're hearing is it feels like there's more at play here, and that's not the only person with more power than me in Washington that I'm hearing that from, but
So you're hearing from multiple people that are connected and tapped in, that they believe that there's more at play or more to the story than simply one radicalized young man.
I heard subsequent to publishing this story from another source who I would describe as a administration insider that corroborated the account in this story. First, that Charlie Kirk was actively and aggressively personally lobbying Trump against bombing Iran in June. And two, that right now,
That that is true, believe it or not. I do remember that. Charlie, I remember Charlie Kirk. He even said on a show that he was talking to Trump personally and was trying to get him to not bomb Iran or Iran, however you want to pronounce it, because he thought that wasn't going to be a good idea. I think I remember Charlie saying something about that towards the end, though. He did end up getting on board for just striking the nuclear sites, but I think he was afraid that an all-out war was going to break out if we bombed the nuclear sites in Iran. But if anything, us bombing Iran, the only thing it showed is that Iran's not as strong as we thought. That's the only thing that us bombing them proved to the world. And I think Israel was rather surprised when Israel got planes in there. See that, and that shocked the world. You know, everybody was like, Israel was just flying planes in there like it was nothing. I mean, they weren't getting any anti-aircraft missiles shot at them or nothing. I mean, they had like no defense at all. So pretty much America and the Israeli army had their way with them in the air. They had complete control of the air over Iran. But yeah, I remember Charlie. I don't remember who he was talking to. It was in an interview though. I remember him saying he talked to Trump about he really didn't like him or going in there. That if he did go in there, he thought it was going to cause a major problem.
the FBI is not being forthcoming, and there's a lot of frustration with the FBI not sharing information.
So, because, I mean, just to reiterate again, you're not a nut. You're a reporter. People may disagree with you. You're anti-Zionist. So there's a lot of people that are going to, say that you're a little paranoid when it comes to Israel and that Israel's behind everything. I'm just saying this is not what I'm saying. I'm saying this is an attack that you've probably faced before. But you're a reporter. You're not a nut. You're not a crazy person. You grew up in Washington, D.C. You have connections to a lot of these people. You have sources. And you're not speaking to schizophrenics on the street. You're not talking to crazy people. You're not, this is not things you're getting off message boards or a Discord. You're talking to people in the know that believe there's more to the story. That's pretty shocking.
I can only say that I wrote this. I mean, some people want to say there was this prefabricated narrative on the right that the killer was a leftist or a Muslim. They clearly wanted that. Now, people on the left are saying he was a groyper. I don't know what will be the case, but the reason I wrote this story was because I was able to get this background about Charlie Kirk and what was happening in his life and what was coloring his final days and the kind of pressure he was under, which tells a larger story about Israeli influence in the United States. And that's just an issue I've been covering for years. So that's why I reported this story.
Yeah.
I didn't report this story to prove that Israel has a direct role in his assassination.
Of course not.
But there is a real reason why many people who are not able to talk to people with any proximity to power believe that is the case. And it's because the way Israel's conducting itself around the globe.
Final question to you. In a hypothetical world, I know you're a reporter, so it's hard to entertain this. Knowing what you know about the what we talked about now is the moment and now is the time and everybody needs the money and, everybody needs this Iran regime change and, everyone obviously that has that perspective and that interest, Netanyahu and Adelson, all these people. In a hypothetical world, would the head of a campus organization that is hugely influential in grassroots political organizing and fundraising, do you think, and again, this is not to say there is evidence of this, because obviously you have none of it. In a hypothetical world, how dangerous is a Charlie Kirk to the people you're talking about? How dangerous is him making a turn on Israel? How substantive and dangerous is that? And in a hypothetical world, is it dangerous enough where you would have to eliminate him in some way?
Well, I think if he had gone further than he was going and continued to give voice to the grassroots of his own organization, they would have eliminated him, but not physically. I mean, they would have sought to have eliminated him politically or just to remove him. And they were already calling for that. Ben Shapiro, who's now running around saying he was Charlie Kirk's best friend, said just days, I think it was just days before Charlie Kirk was killed, he said that you can't be at the front of the church giving space to kooks. And then just a few days later, when Charlie Kirk was at the front of the church, he was struck in the neck by a sniper's bullet. And then Ben Shapiro, within 24 hours, said, well, he's going to go on his own campus tour and pick up the bloody microphone that Charlie Kirk left for us. So they did not want someone like giving space to anti-Israel critics or just the real mood in this country. They needed to hold the line. So I don't know. I think there are easier ways to get rid of someone and cleaner ways than assassination. I've been the target of that for many years, but for sure. And he was a gigantic threat to Israeli control over the Republican Party. Maybe the biggest threat, since Trump has proven so easy
I don't know. Is that
move
true?
and manipulate.
I don't know
and
if that's true,
so
y'all.
afraid. I mean, we can't overestimate Charlie Kirk's importance to the Trump machine and to the Republican Party. He was sort of a unique figure, and I don't think he can be replaced. It will also be interesting to see who steps into his wake. And I might be having more. I might have more to report on this, by the way. So,
well, I appreciate it,
this
Max.
space.
Max Blumenthal. The website is called The Gray Zone. You guys do some really interesting stuff. Anything coming up you'd want people to check out?
Well, yeah, just watch this space. We might have more to report on this. And I really appreciate you giving me the mic and giving me the space to talk about it. And, you know, I love the work that you do.
Yes. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Thank your wife for also she contributed to the story as well. And, you know, thank you both of you. And we'll have you back if there's new developments.
Appreciate that.
Of course.
That's crazy, y'all. What do you guys think? You guys think that you guys think Israel had Charlie Kirk knocked off? Is that a possibility? I don't know. It seems kind of far-fetched, but I'm willing to have an open mind. You know what I mean? Anybody knows that I lean more right than I do left, you know, but I'm not crazy. You know, I always keep an open mind, man. You never know everything. And sometimes you're wrong, man. And I, I can, uh, I can admire somebody that can admit they're wrong, you know, and not get upset about it. Be like, hey, you know what? I heard some new evidence, and you know what? You might be right, man. You know, you might be. I might have been wrong, you know. But I'm more of a facts and evidence. I need to see something. I need, you know, words are great, but until I see like, I gotta see something. I need some facts. I need some evidence. I need to something I can lay my eyes on to be like, okay, that's true. That's not true, you know. So I like hearing these different points of view, especially from you could tell he's more of a lefty, I guess you could say. But I won't say he's crazy. Some of it seemed a little outlandish to me, but some of it may not be, you know? I'm all ears. But I do agree with the fact that there definitely has to be something bigger behind the Charlie Kirk ordeal. I don't think it was just there's something, I know there are two different incidents, but I think they're correlated. You know, they tried to kill Trump 3 times and they weren't able to successfully do it. And then they get Charlie Kirk, right? And I don't think, and there were two young guys. They were also, I don't think they just randomly decided, hey, I'm going to show up this day. This is how I'm going to plan it out, whatever, right? I think somebody was behind it, something bigger, either organization or some big money, something bigger behind it, I think was behind it. Now, whether we'll ever know, I don't know. I hope if they do find something out that they would let the public know, but who knows? All right, we're going to take a break real quick. We're going to take about a 5 to 10 minute break. Then we're going to come back and we're going to see what Tim Dillon's got to say about Jimmy Kimmel, y'all. Good old Jimmy Kimmel. I can't believe they suspended him and now they're going to put him back on. I don't like him because he's more leftish. I just don't like him because he ain't funny. There's nothing funny about that dude. Not a damn thing funny about him. But let's take about a 5 to 10 minute break and we'll be back in just a few, y'all.
Issue right now in the world. Let's tackle it head on. Everyone is talking about it. Everyone wants to know what it means. I was fired from the Riyadh Comedy Festival. It is the most important free speech news. Everybody has a take. Everyone has an opinion. It's inescapable. Go to a lunch. It comes up. You're at a christening. You think you're safe. You're not. Did you hear comedian, podcaster, Tim Dillon fired from Saudi Arabia's first comedy festival? Shocking developments. What does it mean? What does it mean? I'll tell you how it went down, and then we'll address that thing at ABC with Kimmel. I also heard there's an issue there. But my agent called me and told me, first of all, I'll lay out the whole thing. I was supposed to perform in Dubai. I mixed up Dubai and I said Abu Dhabi. Apparently this is a big deal over there. This is like a real problem. My agent called me and he goes, you said on Joe Rogan that you were performing in Abu Dhabi and you're actually performing in Dubai. They're cities and they have a rivalry. And I go, dude, who gives a fuck? What do I stop? I made a mistake. This is not a malicious slander. It's a mistake. He goes, well, they're very angry and they sent an email that you need to be controlled. I said, well, good luck. Whatever. I don't have to do it. I don't care. And then he called me a few days later, and I thought he was going to talk about the Kimmel thing. But he called me and he said, they heard what you said about them having slaves. And I said, I was being positive about it. I was defending them. He goes, well, I know that. I know you were defending them. I said, I was defending them for having slaves. I literally said, Slaves are probably hard workers and, for the most part, agreeable. But they didn't like that. You can literally support somebody too much. I've learned this. You can actually, by the way, in life, this happens. Too many compliments, too much support, and then they turn on you. I was saying that slaves were proud of some of the buildings they built. That's what I was saying. I was saying that if I was a slave, not that I want to be, if I was a slave and I built a really nice thing, I might say to my slave children, Daddy built that. That's what I was saying, that I would have said, hey, Daddy built that. When my slave children said, ooh, look at that, I'd say, Daddy built that. I was going that angle. Apparently, this got to the people in Saudi Arabia, and they were unhappy about it. They're huge fans of comedy over there. Now, I am very clear about the way I will do a gig. If I accept a gig, I am not going to break the rules of the gig. Meaning, Amish people call me. They go, Tim, we're going to pay you a lot of money. We want you to perform in the Amish, Pennsylvania Dutch country. But we're Amish. So we don't want to hear about iPhones or Kalshi, which they should hear about. It's phenomenal, this Kalshi. We'll get to it later. But if that was a rule, I would respect it while I'm there, while I'm in Pennsylvania Dutch country, eating shoe fly pie, respecting their culture. You have a culture. You've got Sharia law. Would I like Sharia law? No, I don't want it. Actually, I don't want it. I'm good. But you have it. So it's not like I have bits in my act about the prophet anyway. So I certainly wasn't going to show up in your country and insult the people that are paying me the money. One, it's illegal. So I wasn't really planning to go to a Saudi jail. But on my own show, in my own country, where I have the freedom to speak and say the things I want, I'm going to be funny and I'm going to be who I am. And if you're not buying that, you don't have the right to tell me on my own show. People were coming up to me saying, why would you go to that country? They have slaves. In Tribeca, they're assaulting me, these people. I'm just leaving a lunch and they're coming out. They have slaves, they say. And of course, I addressed it in a funny way and they fired me. And then they told me, they go, my agents, they all call me. You don't have to talk about this, they say. Don't talk about it. Remember when you talked about Joker? I said, what? They go, it hurts you to talk about these things. In what? In what is even left, you bums? The only thing left is what I'm doing. Nobody, what? What are you talking about? So, and what I mean by that is like, there's the business doesn't have any teeth anymore. They can't tell me what to do or say. They're not even offering anything. They're not even offering anything. We don't want people thinking you're a problem. But how do they not think that? How could they not think that? A Google of me and a read a 60-second scroll. You buy me, you buy what I'm going to do. Joker was a bad movie. Why would I lie and say it's good? Everyone thought it was bad in the world. Okay? Every article that came out was like, hey, this thing sucks.
Sorry, guys. I just realized
What
my
was I
mic wasn't
supposed
on,
to
y'all.
do? By the way, I was in it for a second and I made no money. What loyalty am I supposed to have? And the director was mean to me. So I'm supposed to go out there and talk about how great it is. Well, you're actually just misunderstanding the movie. It's actually really good. The Joker doing dance numbers is good. It's good that it doesn't have a plot. It's actually good. It doesn't
Is it
work.
really, though?
Who the fuck wants to watch that? You know? So they were like, well, you don't have to tell people that you're not going because, we don't want people thinking you're that person that gets fired. Yeah, whatever, think it. What do I give a fuck? I mean,
Yeah.
what? Who cares? I'm going to get fired again.
Yeah, who cares? That's a good attitude to have, man. Don't let people tell you what you can and you cannot say and what you can and cannot think, man. The only thing you have control over in this life is what you think in your own head and what you say out of your own mouth, man. It's the only thing you have control over in this world, anyways. Don't let people tell you how to control those two things.
I'm going to get fired again from people that are not even Saudis. I'm going to get fired by people who don't chop hands off. I'm going to get fired by reasonable people. I'm going to get fired by people that don't practice Sharia law. I will be fired by many races and religions. I'm going to be fired by others. This is the most controversial the people who fire me will ever be. Let me relish in this. Let's take this win. The future people that fire me will be good mothers and fathers, family people who probably fire me for a completely rational reason. I just rolled out of bed and I just decided to do something they didn't like, and that's completely fine. It is what it is. This is the first time I've been fired by people that actually do really bad things. So let's take this win. Let's take this win.
Yeah, let's take
I'm
this
now
win.
with Iran. Iran's against them. I'm with Iran now. You've pushed me into the bosom of Iran. Do you understand that?
He's like, fuck you guys. I'm with Iran now. You guys fired me. I'm with Iran now. Shit, I don't blame him.
I'm going to Tehran to do their comedy festival. I don't care. I'm being pushed into the arms of Iran. Those types of Muslims. What are those ones called? Shia. I'm Shia now. I was going to be Sunni. I think Saudi is Sunni and Iran is Shia. Right? Yes? Maybe? I'm Shia now. Shiite? Right?
She's Shiite.
That's what I am now because you've done this to me. You fired me and created a Shia problem. I'm a Shiite problem now, biatch. So, who cares? By the way, I get to keep, my agent knows this. He knows often if you represent me, you're going to get calls that people are unhappy. He just thought it would be like the usual suspects. The people around this town, this dispiriting dump called Los Angeles. He thought it was going to be those people at the, the Riviera Country Club calling me going, this guy's like, what is he doing? Why did he have Candace Owens on? Why does he open his mouth? What's wrong with him? Why is he dressed up like a Muslim, then a Jew? What's going on? I don't get it. That's the normal calls. He didn't think he was going to get a call from the Middle East. He didn't think I was going to get fired by a theocracy in the Middle East. Neither did I, but I'm with Iran now. That's what happens. This is geopolitics. Do you understand? This is why the Middle East is so effed up. Because there's no fucking unity. There's no goddamn unity. That's all. So I will be with Iran. I don't know what to tell everyone. Now let's talk about Jimmy Kimmel, which, by the way, I think is much less interesting than what happened to me. But as usual, it's dominated the headlines.
Now,
Jimmy Kimmel, I don't know.
I don't like Jimmy Kimmel just because I don't think he's funny. I don't think Jimmy Kimmel's funny at all, honestly. I think he is. I don't even know why his show. I don't know. I don't even know why they're putting him back on. I think they're putting him back on just because they know it's going to piss a bunch of people off. Who knows? But I thought they were losing money from him. Why would they put him back on if they're losing money?
Jimmy, I've never met Jimmy. I don't watch his show. My friends know him and really, really like him as a guy. He's like less annoying in real life than he is on television. This is what I hear from people whom I trust. I think Jimmy was a funny guy. I don't watch what he does now. It's very political. It's very like kind of annoying to most people.
Yeah,
Even the people that are in the middle, it's annoying. To people that are apolitical, it's annoying. It's way over the top. Colbert, him, everybody went way over the top. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. He should still be on the air, and I'll get to why. But setting the stage here, they all went way over the top. Johnny Carson said years ago, I'm not political. I'm here to put Americans to bed.
Right.
These guys went fully the other way. They alienated half the country. It's their right, by the way. It's their right. Is it a great business move? Probably not.
Yeah, that's crazy, dude. I mean, what business would you want to go? I mean, that would be like somebody opening a cupcake shop, right? But uh, this may be controversial, but it said blacks only, right? Or whites only. Why would you alienate a whole section of your possible customer base? Same thing with the politics, with the night shows. Why would they alienate like a huge portion? I mean, it should be like any other business, you know? I don't give a fuck who comes in as long as they got green in their pocket. Everybody's welcome. Come on in. Let's go. You know? Why would they do that? That don't make sense.
Probably not. You know, if you opened a pizzeria, you wouldn't call it like, fuck Trump pizza unless it was like in Portland or something. You know, if you're trying to.
Fuck Trump pizza. Fuck Biden pizza. Wow. Yeah, that wouldn't be a good business move. Or or you really wanted to alienate some people, put a put like a wedding venue where people could have like wedding parties or whatever, and just have it say men only. Boy, you'd alienate half the women. They'd be pissed. That would be a bad business model, y'all.
Appeal to a demographic of people that is.
Although, you know what? This is a little off topic here, but since we're talking about marriage real quick, do you know a lot of these big name like bridal dress places are going out of business, man? Like all these years they were able to do it, but marriages are tanking so hard and so fast that a lot of these jewelry places, which is bad for me because I do jewelry repair. So, but a lot of the jewelry places are going out of business. A lot of the bridal places, marriage places that do the like after parties and stuff like that. All them places are going bye bye, and they're going bye bye in a hurry. And I don't. I say it's a good thing. I don't know if it's good for long term, but I had to get that out while I was still in my head because when we were talking about marriage there for a second, it's like, man, the marriage rates are tanking fast, boy.
Of many political stripes, but they're not. They've given up on that. That's fine. That's their right. It's their right to politicize their show to a point where it's unwatchable. And by the way, that's anyone's right. Okay? I'm going to play the joke he made. It's a weird joke, and it's a not factually correct thing, but here's why I'm going to not only defend it, but I think it is ridiculous to pull this guy off the air. I think it's ridiculous to pretend it was about money. I think it's ridiculous to pretend that it's not a political hit job. It's a political hit job, and we know it. Was ABC Is it the cash cow it was 10, 20 years ago? Absolutely not. We know late night TV is dying. We know all of that. That's not why this show got yanked. And pretending it is an insult to people's intelligence. Okay? It's an insult to people's intelligence. This was a hit. Politically motivated hit job. Okay? It's something that most people who talk for a living should care about. If you talk for a living, if you're making money, entertaining people, informing people, whatever it is you think you're doing out there, anybody who's doing that should care a little bit about this. Let's watch his joke, and then let's talk about the fallout.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yes. He's at the fourth stage of grief, construction. Demolition.
Look, guys, I don't like Jimmy Kimmel, but that is kind of funny. That is kind of funny. He's at the fourth stage of grief, construction. Okay, let's see if this gets any worse. I'm not a big fan of him, though. I've watched some of his shows, and he's in general just not very funny.
So here's the thing. Not a bad, it's a fun joke. The setup to the joke where it's like they're doing everything they can to pretend this guy's not a MAGA guy. Nobody thought this guy was a MAGA guy. People thought he was a far-right internet kid or a far-left internet kid. No one thought he was like a card-carrying member of the MAGA group.
Right.
So he's presenting the premise is false, whatever. Highlighting Trump's absurd reaction when asked about Charlie Kirk, you start talking about a ballroom. Dude, I mean, it's the president's own words. And then he does, joke about he's at the fifth stage of grief, fourth stage of grief, construction, whatever. It's kind of, now listen, it's being done in a climate that's very charged emotionally. A guy got shot in the face.
Right.
His wife and kid will watch that for the rest of their life. His wife and children.
Yeah, I think that joke would have went over much more well if you just left the MAGA stuff out of it and just said, hey, they talked to Trump and here's what he said, and then he's in the fourth stage of grief, construction. I think if he just left it like that, it wouldn't have been that big of a deal. But when he took it to the MAGA, talking that stuff, I think that's what kind of threw everybody off.
The reactions to it, some of them were abhorrent. Some of the reactions to that were, including some of the mainstream media obits, were wild. Scoring political points on the guy with a hole in his neck. It's insane. And it's radicalized a lot of people. And I'm not saying that was everybody's reaction, but there were people that reacted in a way. Now, by the way, again, I'll say it again. I dressed up like a dead healthcare CEO and satirized how people feel when someone divisive dies. I'm not against people doing comedy.
I appreciate
dark
the follow,
comedy,
Lamberto.
black comedy, whatever you want to call it. I think that the reactions to the Kirk thing were people that were rationalizing, not in a satirical way, but in a very genuine way, rationalizing this guy getting shot,
Right.
rationalizing him being killed, going, this is good, more of this, we need this, okay? And if you're on that side where you believe people that you don't like should just get shot in the face, hey, What am I going to do? But it's abhorrent to many people. It's not a bit. It's not a joke. There is a difference between a guy that's denying life-saving treatment to people who's a healthcare CEO and a guy sitting on college campuses debating kids. I don't care what you think about his views. There is a substantive difference between those two people. And I wasn't for the healthcare guy getting shot in the head. I'm not for random people getting shot in the head.
Yeah, I'm not for like the healthcare guy, the CEO that got killed. I'm not for anybody getting killed, but the thing is you can kind of the average American can kind of relate to that though. You know, what would you do if you had a loved one or say it was your child or something, you know, who knows? What would you do if say they had cancer, but your health insurance that you have won't cover it, and if they could get the treatment, they might be able to live longer, but if they can't, they're going to die. And they can't get it because the CEO says we're not covering that. What would you do? So I think a lot of people could wrap their head around that. Now, like the Charlie Kirk thing, whether you agreed with him or not, it's kind of hard to wrap your head around that because he was welcoming debate. You know, give me, you know, prove me. Well, like his thing on his tent said, prove me wrong. You know, and people were just, you know, people couldn't really get on board with that. But you know, a lot of people got on board with that CEO thing because the average person can relate to that. You know, everybody doesn't go to a doctor because they don't want to go to a doctor. Everybody goes to a doctor because they can't fucking afford it. You know, nobody wants to take an ambulance ride. You know, unless I've lost like a gallon of blood, put me in a car, and take me to the hospital. I don't want that ambulance bill. You know what I mean? So a lot of people could wrap their head around the CEO ordeal. Not that I'm advocating for it, but a lot of more people sympathized with that than the Charlie Kirk thing. The Charlie Kirk thing was just that was a little off the wall.
I'd gladly pay higher taxes if people got health care. They never seem to. Taxes go up and they never seem to get that. But there is a substantive.
You know, and this is the crazy thing, y'all. Now that he mentioned taxes, I hate to stop it real quick. Why are people, I don't get this. Why are people voting for higher taxes? I don't care if it's government or local. Every time the government gets a tax increase, do you think that ever goes away? No, once they get the increase, that bitch stays there. They ain't decreasing shit. So every time they raise the sales tax, they raise this, and people vote for it, and I'm like, are these people nuts? Like, if they raise taxes and they get it passed, it ain't going back down. Once they get it, they've got it, and they're not letting it go.
Difference. And the idea that like people watched this whole thing and some of the reactions were so beyond the pale, it's going to be hard to get those people to care about what's happening to Kimmel. It is. Folks, I'll tell you right now, you got to get healthier. About Lucy, 100% pure nicotine, tobacco-free.
Skip through the ads. Skip through the ad.
People just want scalps. That's what they want. No one in this country has any interest in a bipartisan standard where people agree that they're going to be bothered. America's about being bothered all the time by people you don't like. People in this country are going to make a lot of money saying things you don't like. You may be listening to one of them right now. That is annoying. People don't like that. They're never going to like it. It'll never be.
Yeah, man, if there's somebody that you're watching you don't like, you know, you ain't got to get on the internet, try to get them canceled. Just don't fucking watch. I mean, it's not hard.
Satisfying to hear someone you don't agree with, say things you don't like, and get paid lots of money to do it. But that's part of the deal. It's part of the reality of living in America. Nobody likes this. You either turn it off or you hate watch it or you project onto this person things that you believe they are. Maybe you're right. Who knows? Right. But you can't think it's a great idea that the FCC, the chairman of the FCC, goes on a podcast and goes, we could do it the easy way or the hard way. We could think about revoking broadcast licenses, and then pressures affiliates to drop this show.
Wow.
Because
I didn't know that the head of the FCC went onto a podcast and was saying that. Is that true? Somebody let me know in chat, because I didn't know that.
This guy said something the president of the United States doesn't like. The president of the United States then also follows it up by going, hey, Seth Meyers, Fallon, Seth Meyers, you're next. You're next. Do we have the FCC? See if we can find the video of Carr. I forget his first name. Yeah, going and talking about this. Okay, let's listen to this.
There's actions that we can take on licensed broadcasters. And frankly, I think that it's really sort of past time that a lot of these licensed broadcasters themselves push back on Comcast and Disney and say, listen, we are going to preempt. We are not going to run Kimmel anymore until you straighten this out, because we licensed broadcaster, are running the possibility of fines or license revocation from the FCC if we continue to run content that ends up being a pattern of news distortion. So I think, again, Disney needs to see some change here, but the individual licensed stations that are taking their content, it's time for them to step up and say, this, garbage, to the extent that that's what comes down the pipe in the future, isn't something that we think serves the needs of our local communities. But this sort of status quo is obviously not acceptable.
They're building China. It's what they're building. It's why all of the tech.
So basically, that was just like the FCC going on there and publicly threatening all the licensed broadcasters to be like, hey, if you don't do something with this, we may fine you or take your license.
People decided they were Republicans. It's why all of the contracts are going to build AI models that look at speech that they don't like from students that attend to protest. They're building China, and they don't want you to notice. And if they can weaponize politics so that you stop caring, they can transform America into something that's kind of unrecognizable. This isn't without precedent. During the 2020s.
The fuck are they talking about, man? It's already unrecognizable. I mean, look, man, we might still be better. I know we're better than Afghanistan or Iraq, but you just go back even 30 years ago, man. People weren't so sensitive. People wasn't at each other's throats. Shit, half the people didn't even know who the governor was. They didn't give a shit about the governor. They didn't give a shit about the president. They didn't care who was president because it didn't really affect their everyday life for the most part. Now, all of a sudden, you got people carrying, all of a sudden, they care about politics now. Now it's turned into a one side versus the other. It becomes a war. That's how civil wars start, y'all. But yeah, not even that long ago, just before the internet in the mid-90s. That's as far back as you got to go. The world then, in that time frame, was different than it is now. And I think it was better back then, honestly.
Lunatics ran through a lot of the institutions in America, from the media to the universities, demanding that people they disagreed with be fired. They demanded those people be deplatformed. They demanded those people be made, into sacrifices publicly. Those people, they wanted those people to be broke. They wanted those people's families to be targeted.
Hey, I always say, People only want you to succeed, but they don't want you to succeed past them. They don't want to see you doing better than them. That's a fact. I don't give a shit who it is, and that can be family members too. They don't want to see you doing better than them. They'll tell you they want you to succeed, but watch their attitude change when you go flying right by them. Boy, they get bitter and just fucking resentment, man.
Targeted and harassed. And we watched this in the 2020s. And it was disturbing to me. I remember the Covington kids. That grimacing little kid was standing there and the Native Americans beating the drum in his face. And then celebrities, people I know, were calling for the doxing of that.
I remember that. Y'all remember that? I remember that. And that dude, that kid ain't got to work a day in his life either, man. They sued and he got like $250 million because they were slandering him. And he was perfect too, man. He didn't say a word, man. Boy, I think he was smiling because he knew he was fixing to cash in, boy. He did. Him and his, I don't know if it was him and his family or just him, but he got like $250 million. I think they sued CNN. It was either CNN, it was one of them networks. He got a shit ton of money.
Literal child and his family, who then, upon further reflection, didn't do anything wrong. This is a human impulse. It's a human impulse to get whipped up into a frenzy and join a mob and run around with pitchforks and proclaim that you are morally superior to other people. This is something human beings enjoy doing. There's not that many.
Look, guys, we're all the same. Y'all say, no, we're not the same. You got rich, you got poor. No, we're all the same. We all come into this world the same way, and we're all leaving the same way. That guy in that $1 million house, that $1 million house ain't gonna do shit for him when death comes knocking on the door. Ain't gonna do a damn thing. There ain't no amount of money gonna save your ass when your time comes. So keep that in mind. We're all the same. I don't care if it's the homeless dude holding a sign on the street, on the side of the road, in the middle of the intersection. I don't care if it's the CEO of, I don't know, Amazon, Publix, whatever, some big corporation. We came in the same way, we're going out the same way. Maybe you can afford $1 million casket, but still, that $1 million casket ain't gonna get you nowhere special, you know.
Things that
So you need to treat everybody. I try to treat everybody equal. Now, if you disrespect me, I'm coming at you. If you come at me, I'm coming back at you. As simple as that. If you're respectful to me, I'll be respectful to you. You know, that's just common sense stuff.
get people off. You know, this is one of them. Going and joining, picking up a pitchfork and running down the street with the mob is something that people get great enjoyment out of. It's fun. They like it.
Not me, y'all. If I seen a group of people outside of my house running around with pitchforks, I am not joining that group. I'm sorry. I don't give a I don't care if they're white, black, Hispanic. I don't give what mixed. I don't care. I'm not joining that group because I know that group. I don't care what you say. You can go around with pitchforks, and I don't care how many people you got. But if you get too crazy, cops and the military, they'll fucking destroy you, man. You gotta have common sense, man. They drop one bomb, take that whole crew out. Fuck them pitchforks.
They like tearing people limb from limb. And the problem with that is that it doesn't end. See, it doesn't end. The left does it to the right does it to the left, and then eventually
it's just always back
the
and forth.
government decides that people hate each other in this country
Hey,
enough
what's up, Birch?
that the government can then
Good to see you,
chop
man.
this thing up, sell it for parts, while you all hate each other and fight each other, they can hand the country over to oligarchs. Many of them are friends. They all have dinner in Washington, D.C. They're all talking about.
I think we can all agree that politicians, I don't give a shit what side they're on, they're all corrupt. They're all fucked, you know? And then I hear people say, "Well, if I ever got into Congress or I was president, I would never do that." It's like, really? Do you think you wouldn't do it? Because you really don't know till you're there. That temptation. It's like, I could just steal like a couple $100 million. Nobody fucking know, and I'd never have to work again. That's a hard temptation for somebody that maybe don't have a lot of money when they first came in. 'Cause that's how a lot of these politicians are, man. They come in with like next to nothing and they leave with millions of dollars, you know? So Bird says they own each other and their money touches the same places. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I mean, like George Carlin said, it's a big club and we're not in it. Me and you watching, we're not in it. We're not in that big club, y'all.
How they reach out to people in the media, people like me, they reach out to everybody and they tell you that it's going to be good, that they are the guardians of free speech. They care about your ability to say things that ruffle feathers. They're with you. And they're actors. And behind them are very wealthy people, some of whom you know, many of whom you don't, by the way.
Okay.
And I don't. And we could look them up and have trouble finding them. Not in some crazy conspiracy Knights Templar way, but in the genuine way of like.
Okay, so I got a question. Everybody talks about George Soros, right? I don't know I didn't know much about this dude, but I looked him up. Everybody says that like George Soros is behind this, that, and the other. The dude is like 95 years old. Like why would George Soros give a shit about why would he fund any of this shit? It don't make sense. I mean, unless he just got that kind of money and he just don't care. And maybe he's just like, fuck it, I'm fixing to die, so let's take as many people as he can with me. I don't know, but at his age, I just think he would have other things to worry about, but I could be wrong. I don't know.
Many of the people who have huge ownership stakes in companies are not public figures. They exist on the periphery. They have large sums of money and they're pretty quiet about it, but they funnel that money into places and they strangle industries. And all these people want to merge. They want to do mergers with their companies. They want to monopolize.
That's why these big companies like Microsoft, why they buy all these little, if they see a company that's coming up, and see, that's the thing, they got so much money they can do that shit. They see a company coming up that's going to affect their company, they'll just buy them out. But then when the ones that they won't let them buy them out though, then they just crush them. They put them out of business. It's crazy.
Industries, they want government money and they want government grants, so they shut up and they don't say anything about kind of this encroaching, autocratic system. And it doesn't come from any one angle. All these people think, well, it'll just I don't care. People go, I'm from the right. It'll come from the right. It'll silence everyone I don't like, and which you shouldn't want anyway. But it will never work like that. Because what is left and what is right isn't fixed. It's changing. It's changing. 3 years ago, the right wing solidly supported Israel. Right now, they don't. 3 years.
It's crazy because used to be back in the day, I say back in the day, it wasn't that long ago, back when Bill Clinton was in office, you know, I voted Democrat, man. And everybody in my family prior voted Democrat, and like everybody I knew was Democrat. And the Democrats wasn't they wasn't fucking crazy like they are now, you know? Like used to be the Republicans were it was flip-flopped. Like the Democrats were for the working man and the Republicans were for big business. That's what everybody thought. And now it's like flipped around. Now Democrats are like, I'm not saying they're all loony, but a good chunk of them are. And now the Republicans are like what the Democrats used to be in the early 90s, late 80s. It's really weird.
Ago, it was unthinkable for a majority of the right to have turned against America's funding of Israel. Now you are seeing people under 40 on the left and the right agreeing that America should not be funding whatever the hell Israel's doing. Building, Las Vegas on the Gaza Strip. Nobody's in for that.
Building Las Vegas. Are they really? I know that's so wrong, but that would be hilarious if I turn on the TV one day and the news pops up and they show a picture and I'm like, that looks like Las Vegas. And they're like, look at the new Gaza Strip. They got like strip clubs and casinos going down the Gaza Strip. That'd be nuts.
Nobody's in for that. When the Israeli finance minister comes out and goes, hey, we spent a lot of money on the war. We got to get paid back a little bit. We're doing a real estate project. It's on Trump's desk. It's all fine. People under 40 are going, hey, man, I can't own a house. I can't pay back my student loans. Why are my tax dollars funding you guys going and building Miami?
Now, that's a good question. That's a really good question. Why? All the money that we spend on Ukraine and Israel, like they could probably take all that money, give all the homeless a house, and have plenty of money left over. They could probably just buy everybody a house in the United States and still have plenty of money left over. With the billions and hundreds of billions of dollars that we've spent and sent to other countries. That's nuts. Google a picture of 1950 Republican Party. I won't do that now because that'll fuck up my stream. The OBS. I mean a map. Okay, yeah, I'll do that after this is finished. Um, because I don't want to screw OBS up because OBS likes to be very finicky. But yeah, man, that's just crazy. It will shock you. What is it? Was there just like more? Was there less Republicans back then, or more Republicans, or is that what you're talking about? Like how many Republicans and Democrats there were back then? Building Miami and Gaza. Really? Dude, Miami is Miami has turned into like the prostitute heaven. 8 Dems and the rest Republicans. Huh. Wow. Well, it's weird because and maybe it's because I grew up in the 80s, early 80s, most of the 80s. I don't know, man. It just like it seemed like more people were Democrats back then. It just seemed that way to me. And then after Bill Clinton, like I said, Bill Clinton, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, is that Bill Clinton did have a balanced budget. By the time Bill Clinton left office, we had zero debt. So I'll give him that. And if he's got to get a quickie and a blowjob to get zero debt, I don't. I guess that's the price we pay, y'all. But I'll give Bill Clinton that. We had zero debt when he left office. He had it down to zero. But after Bill Clinton, man, I don't know what happened, man. Everything just went downhill. Ever since Barack Obama and then the Democratic Party just went straight downhill. Like I don't know what the fuck happened. And look, man, I'm not saying everybody on the Republican side is great either. You know, you got wackos on both sides, y'all. Like I said, politics is it's a dirty game.
In Gaza, who's that for? Who's that for, and why are people funding it? You know, if you work at a 7-Eleven for 12 hours a day, on your feet, dealing with every drunk who walks in, grabbing, you know, they want a pack of cigarettes, they want this, they want a hot dog, they want, you know, you got protein bar, whatever. And you do that job, which is not an easy job, whatever job you do. But think about that, and you're getting paid whatever. I don't know what 7-Eleven pays, but let's imagine it's not ideal.
Probably not a hell of a whole
Your
lot.
tax dollars are going so that real estate developers can build luxury condos with like floating bathtubs in Gaza. There's no way anyone elected Trump for this. There's zero.
That's crazy. And why would you waste that money anyways if they were to do that? Why would you build hotels? Why would you build anything on the Gaza Strip? I mean, you build anything over there within a few years, there's always war over there. Then people have been in conflict for hundreds, if not thousands of years. I don't think that shit's ever going to end. Why would you build brand new buildings just for them to get blown up? That don't make sense.
Possibility that people elected Donald Trump so that their tax dollars could go to luxury real estate development in Gaza or in Qatar. There's zero way that any of this, take a look at that. To be fair, it does look.
Look, Jesus Christ, dude. Look, man, I like Trump, but this is Donald Trump's vision for Gaza's future. What a leaked plan tells us about U.S. regional strategy. Dude, I like Trump, man, but that's a bit too far. Why would you build all them nice buildings just to have them blown up a few years later? I mean, because you know they ain't gonna be around very long, anyways. But yeah, like you said, it does look nice, but no.
Nice. To be fair, it's a little bit of an AI rendering. But nobody elected him for that. And now if you criticize that, they'll take your visa. If you're a foreign student, they'll just shut you down. So shut the fuck up, get out of here. You know? So Kimmel was losing money for ABC. Maybe, I don't know. I heard he wasn't. I heard he wasn't making a lot of money, but I heard he wasn't losing it. But by the way, whether he was or he wasn't, who cares? He was losing it last week and he wasn't off the air. It's directly related to that joke. The FCC commissioner said it. I don't think it was a particularly good thing for Jimmy Kimmel to say this guy was MAGA. He wasn't MAGA. By the way, it's easily correctable. You can correct the record without destroying someone's ability to speak. This is something that, you try to die on the hill of this. Now, the only thing left in this country, unfortunately, seems to be power. Everybody thinking that Jimmy Kimmel being removed and indefinitely suspended from ABC means that you are winning, you're a fool. Your tax dollars are going to build casinos in Gaza. You're not winning. This is not what winning looks like.
Honestly, I heard I'm not a big fan of Jimmy Kimmel, y'all. Like, I don't think he's funny. But I heard the joke that they supposedly fired him for, which apparently didn't matter anyways, because I heard earlier today that they're putting his show back on TV, so it doesn't really matter, I guess. But I heard the joke. I mean, I kind of understand. The joke was kind of funny in the sense that when they asked Donald Trump about Charlie Kirk, and then he said that was sad, and then he went into building something for the ballroom, White House, and Jimmy Kimmel said, "Well, see, Trump is in the fourth stage of grieving, construction," and it was kind of funny. But then when he started saying that, it was the kid was MAGA, and he went off that deep end a little bit, that kind of I could see where that kind of rubbed some people the wrong way. Do I think he should have got fired for it? I don't know, but it doesn't matter. They're putting the show back on anyways. I heard earlier today they're putting the show back on.
By the way, Kimmel had planned to address Carr's comments on his show Wednesday night, according to people familiar with the matter. Before his on-air appearance, Dana Walden, co-chairman of Disney Entertainment, spoke to the host about his plan, the People said. After the conversation between Kimmel and Walden, she and other senior executives thought that the star's approach could make the situation worse. People familiar with their conversation said. I mean, one of these issues is that the Kimmel writer's room is a monolith. I don't think there's anybody in there that voices any alternative opinion here.
Yeah, now that's the one thing I want to know. There had to be somebody, because I know they got to go over what their monologue and what they're going to say kind of stuff. Nobody sat him down and was like, Jimmy, this really is not a good idea. I would not, people are raw with their emotions. Dude just got shot in his neck. I wouldn't be saying, he could have done the joke and left the whole MAGA thing out or whatever he was talking about. The joke itself wasn't bad. It was the context after the fact, you know what I mean? That really got him in trouble. But somebody should have sat him down and been like, "Hey, that's not a very good idea. I would leave that part out." you know?
And says maybe we should slow down with this. Again, not a reason for the government to get involved and for the president to be threatening other late night hosts. But there's an element of the right wing.
Look, man, I voted for Trump, but he's not wrong. He's not wrong. That's a very bad look. When you got the FCC, the top dog of the FCC, going onto a podcast and threatening all the hosts, saying, "We'll pull your licenses or whatever if you start saying stupid shit like this." That's not a very good look.
That wants this stuff to keep going on. And it's because they felt culturally powerless for a very long time. And they want these institutions to kind of bend the knee to the president. And it's happened in other countries. People bring up Hungary and Viktor Orban and all that stuff. Obviously, people like Putin. Nobody wants to live in a country where a late night comedian is, subject to removal because he says something that the president of the United States doesn't like.
Well, like I said, I'm not a fan of Jimmy Kimmel. I didn't think he was funny. That joke was kind of funny, just the joke part. But I don't think he should have got. Well, like I said, his show's coming back on, but suspended or whatever. Or even if he was fired, I don't think he should have got suspended or fired. I don't think it really warranted that. But that's just one man's opinion.
Also, here's a sidebar. Is Jimmy Kimmel the deep state? Well, Tulsi Gabbard goes out, who I like, but she goes out and goes, Obama's guilty of treason. And they don't really present a ton of evidence. And then they just drop it. And they move on. And then they go, well, this guy and that guy and this.
he's he's not wrong. I seen that. I seen when Tulsi Gabbard came out and said like Obama was treasonous, and I was saying the same thing. I'm like, look, I have an open mind, guys. I'm not like dead set in my ways. I try to keep an open mind, and I'm an evidence and fact, and if I can see it kind of guy. If I can see the evidence, I can actually see. And I was thinking that it's funny he said that because when I heard her say that, I was thinking the same exact thing. I was like, you know, where where's the evidence? Show me something. Show me a picture, papers, something. But I remember her getting out there and she's like, "Yeah, Obama was treasonous and he did this and he did that." And I was like, "All right, they're fixing to show us some papers." And then after that, I ain't heard shit about it. I ain't seen nothing either. That's not a good look either.
This guy and that guy, and then the Epstein files, they all vote to not release them. And then they go, well, Jimmy Kimmel.
And look, guys, now that he mentioned about the Epstein files, look, man, I voted for Trump, okay? I voted for Trump. But you guys know as well as I do, if you voted for him, he was saying during the whole campaign, man, he was on the road saying, if I get elected, I'm going to release the Epstein files within the first week, or I'm going to do this with the Epstein files. And since he got in there, we ain't heard shit. We ain't seen shit. So something ain't right in that department either. There's been a lot of things that they've been kind of hush hush about. That they were just ranting and raving on the campaign trail. And now that they're in, I ain't heard shit about the Epstein files. They keep that shit close to the chest, man.
Let's get him out of here. And then, Steve Bannon's got a documentary with 20 hours about Epstein. We'll release that. You got all these hours. Nobody over there, they all think you're really, really dumb. And they're treating you the way you treat a young child who wants something that they're not going to get. You try to distract them with other things. You can see, I don't have kids. I'm around people that have kids all the time, and they'll go, I want to do this, I want to do this, I want to do that. And then you go, hey, what about this? Take a look at that. Isn't this cool? Look, a dog. This is that.
Look, a dog.
This is that. I mean, Kesh Patel is walking around like the most compromised person on earth. If Kesh Patel is not afraid of something, I don't know what fear is. These people are running around. They're going to unmask.
You know what was crazy? Cash Patel went on to somebody's show with another guy. I don't know who the other guy was with. And like I was just telling you a second ago, on the election campaign thing, when they were out doing their thing, and they were talking about the Epstein, we're going to release the Epstein files, and they were talking about all that stuff. And then Cash Patel and some other guy get on Fox News. Fox News. And Cash Patel and this other guy are saying complete opposite of what they were saying, 6 months ago. They were like, yeah, there's really no Epstein files. There's really nothing there. There's really nothing to release. And I was like, that's not what they were saying 6 months ago. Like, what the hell? So I don't know, there's something weird. Will we ever know? Probably not. I don't think we ever know the truth.
Everything and expose everything and whatever. Again, I wasn't the one who ran on that premise. They were. And none of that has happened. In fact, whatever.
Look, you're hearing it from a guy that voted for Trump. He's not wrong, man. They ran on that shit. We're going to expose this cover up, the Epstein cover up. Dude, when they got in there, they've done everything but. They've hid that shit. They buried it. They don't even talk about it. Anybody brings it up, they like deflect. So I don't know what's going on there, but I would love to know, man.
Whatever cover-ups going on, they're extending it. They've now become a part of it. They are helping facilitate it. Every comment under everything these people post is, what the fuck are you doing? Speaking of a 7-Eleven, I don't think Cash Patel could solve a robbery at a 7-Eleven without fucking it up.
Ooh.
By the way, it just
I think that's a little low. I don't know that that's true. And Cash Patel was taking a lot of credit for that Charlie Kirk, for them capturing that guy within 33 hours. But honestly, I think if his parents hadn't turned him in, I think we'd still be looking for him. Because I said so on that stream that I did when they showed the pictures of the kid. And I said the only way they're going to catch him is it's going to have to be a longtime friend or a family member that recognizes him in that clothing. Because the general public wouldn't be able to recognize him unless he was in that clothing. If he changed it into anything else, nobody would be able to recognize him. And I said that in that stream. I said, the only people that are going to recognize him is going to be either a long friend of his or a family member. And sure enough, his dad or his family's the one to turn him in. But if his family didn't turn him in, I guarantee you we'd still be looking for him. And they were kind of out there like taking credit for it. Like, we got him in 33 hours. It's like, no, you really didn't. You know, the kid's parents turned him in. And if they hadn't turned him in, I think we'd still be looking for him. They would have no clue.
the guy's the head of the FBI. I love Helix. I'm telling you, it's the best mattresses in the world. Everyone that comes.
Let's skip through that bullshit.
HelixSleep.com/Tim D. It doesn't make any sense. I don't care if you hate Jimmy Kimmel. I'm pretty sure this administration, when they came in and they were talking about America first, they weren't talking about Jimmy Kimmel. But this is how they distract you from what's actually going on. Let's get rid of Jimmy Kimmel because he's pissed us off. By the way, Sam Altman, let's give him more and more money because we're in an AI arms race. Well, who does that help?
Who's Sam Altman?
I don't know, 20 people? 20 Trump voters? And they were all at that dinner in D.C.? You know? Is your life better? Are you making more money? Do you feel better? Do you feel financially more stable? Are you excited about the Israeli real estate project in Gaza? Does that get you going? Do the renderings make you happy? Get the renderings up again. Do the renderings make you happy? You don't have health care. Do the renderings do it for you? They're nice renderings. But does that make you excited? Is that what you voted for? Is that what you're happy about? Is this what you're excited about? Do you show them to friends of yours who have recently lost their jobs? Do you show them the renderings and go, take a look at that? That's going to be...
Why? First of all, I don't think we would ever do that. Because here again, them buildings probably wouldn't last long. There'd be a war between somebody and then buildings would just get leveled. And being that it's right there next to the water, how crazy would it be if we did build buildings there, though, and then we come back with our own Navy ships and blast our own buildings like several years later? That'd be crazy.
Pretty fucking nice. Imagine that. Some of them you could walk right to the beach. They'll probably have a long boardwalk. You go right to the beach. That's what this is about. This city of the future that's being built on the mass grave of all of these people that we're funding, that's what it's about. An AI city of the future.
Okay, guys, for you guys who are watching, I got a question for you. This one's kind of a toughie. I know that Gaza attacked Israel first, right? They killed 2,000 so people. Israel has had maybe arguably a little bit over response. They've killed a bunch of innocent people, children. I mean, just blown the shit out of everybody. Now, they did need to retaliate, because you can't be a pushover, but they did kind of go far to one way. But then the thing is in the Bible, Jesus says Jews are my people, and basically anybody that does harm to them, you know. So who's in the right here? Like, I don't know. It's like if you believe in the Bible, I guess you'd be on Israel's side, but then again, the Israels have kind of went overboard and killed maybe thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of innocent people in Gaza, but they attacked Israel first. So I'm like, I don't know. I don't even know what the right side is. I think the right thing would be for it to just stop so everybody quits dying, but who knows?
Future built on a mass grave. You're funding that. Oh, Jimmy Kimmel said a joke that people don't like. Let's see what this is. We're not even a year into this administration. It's very obvious that this whole thing, the wheels are coming off. Tucker Carlson's become a liberal hero. Is that because things are going well? Is that because things are going well? Is that happening because things have gone in the right direction? It's wild to watch. Every liberal friend I know in LA, okay, cocoons themselves in a blanket, drinks a matcha, and watches Candace Owens for 19 hours a day. And I like Candace. But is that because they're doing a great job in Washington? Is that because things are going well? You know? You know what I mean? I'm just telling you, you have a situation here that's starting to look more and more like a very big op that a lot of people are going to be easily distracted by Jimmy Kimmel or whatever. We're still in the Ukraine war. We're still doing this.
And see, that's the thing, man. Trump on his first term, I think when he got shot at, when they tried to kill him 3 different times, I think it fucked him up in a way. Because, on his first term, they were coming at him all the time, impeaching him and all the different stuff. But this second go round, and like everything that he said in that first campaign, he was getting it done. Started on the wall. But everything he said in this campaign, hasn't really hadn't been on it, he said, well, I'll have the Ukraine and Russia war stopped within the first week of me getting in. No, that's still going, and Russia's actually launching missiles into Poland now. Go figure that one. And then the Epstein thing, that never came to fruition. And it's like something weird is going on. I don't know if maybe them assassination attempts just maybe rattled him too much. I don't know. I don't know what it is.
We're going into World War III. I imagine we're going into World War III. How do you get out of this without World War III? How do you get out of the levels of corruption being exposed without a world war? I hope we do. It would be nice to, but how do you get out of it? It's clear that a lot of people want a wider regional conflict. I think Netanyahu does. I think Putin does. And it would be nice if there was someone in our country who didn't.
And to be honest, guys, we've never, at least not since World War II, we've always picked on people that couldn't fight back, if we want to be real. We've always picked on Iraq, Afghanistan, places where they don't really have a military. They don't have the military equipment. I think if we were to get into a war that really had, with a country that really had a navy, like China or Russia, where they actually got aircraft carriers, they got submarines, they got everything we got, I don't know if we would do so hot. I honestly don't, because most of our soldiers now are worried about what gender they are. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if we'd do too good.
I mean, I don't know, but we're heading. You can feel it. The pieces are coming together. We see different parts of the world aligning economically. We'll see it militarily. We see a lot of things happening that we don't have. There's not a ton of significance to some of these events, but there will be later when you look back and you go, yeah, that wasn't good. That wasn't great. That didn't make a lot of sense. Russian warplanes breached NATO airspace in dangerous provocation over Estonia. Israel's bombing like 12 countries a day. We've got problems, all over the world. We have a
I might have to do a stream on that. I know that I don't know exactly when it was, but I know Russia launched missiles into Poland, which is a NATO country, and it seems like Putin he's almost like he's welcoming us come to war with him. Like bring what you got. We're ready. I don't know if they'd be ready though, because I know they spent a lot of their shit in the Ukraine war. But when you start launching now, once you're launching missiles into NATO territory, it's almost like you're just kind of like baiting. Like, come on, come join the war with us.
pamphlet being handed out, I believe, in Taiwan saying, everybody get ready. Get ready, everybody. Taiwan issues handbook to prepare citizens for Chinese invasion. What a lovely read. What a nice.
Get ready for the Chinese invasion. Dang, that's crazy. I would think that if China tried to take over Taiwan, though, that we would help them, probably. But see here again, I don't think we could go to war with China, even with the sophistication. I mean, they got the same equipment we have, if not better equipment. They got aircraft carriers, they got fighter jets, they got everything we got. They got drones. Um, I think if we ever got involved in a war with China, I think we would freaking lose, y'all. We like to think that we're like the powerhouse of the world, but the only reason we think we're the powerhouse of the world is because every time we go to war with people that can't fight back. We want to be real. They don't have the same equipment we got. Now they might have the same equipment we got, being that we left like $1 billion worth of it over there when we left Afghanistan. They probably use it against us now. They might be able to put up a pretty good fight now. But I'm saying in general, and look at World War II, man. Look when we went to fight the Japanese. We wasn't doing so hot then. The only reason we won is because we went and dropped a bunch of nukes and just like fucking. If we didn't have the nukes, though, they were rolling over us. Japanese were handing us our ass. And the Chinese has got triple the army the Japanese ever had. So if we were to go, like I said, if we were to go to war with China or Russia, I think we'd be in a world of trouble, y'all. We would be fucked. They would have to have a draft for sure, because I think we lack bodies as it is. And China, they definitely ain't hurting for bodies. They got way more people than we do.
Read. Get ready. They're coming. So during all of this is happening. We're talking to Jimmy Kimmel. We're talking about Jimmy Kimmel. And it's important to talk about. It's important to talk about me being fired from Riyadh. It's the most important thing, perhaps, next to the World War III, And the fact that the people in charge of the country believe it's their job to colonize Mars and make us an interplanetary species, and you're not getting a knee operation. You're not getting a knee operation before they make us an interplanetary species.
And he ain't wrong there, man. That's like my mother. She's got a real bad knee. Her knee is bone on bone. And she's in pain all the freaking time, man. And she's on a 2-year wait list to try to get a knee replacement. 2-year wait list, y'all. But we're gonna go spend all that money and try to go colonize Mars. And why the hell do we even want to go to Mars? Like, I understand it's like it'd be nice for us to be able to explore, our universe or our solar system, but what's the point in going to Mars? Like, don't they have, from what I've read, I'm not a scientist, don't they have like winds that get up to like 200 miles an hour on there or over 200 miles an hour? And you'd have to probably wear a suit or be inside most of the time. I mean, it don't seem like a very habitable planet, but we seem very, very interested in getting there. I mean, it would be interesting to actually see us make it there and actually have people step foot onto Mars. I mean, that would be great to see, but it just seems like a waste of a lot of money to me. I don't know.
Species and colonize Mars. And a lot of people in America think it's cool. They think it's cool. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. I really don't. I don't know what to tell you. It's the wildest time that I've been alive, including COVID. Somehow, there's more of an eerie feeling now than COVID. Somehow, it feels like we're waiting for something to happen. I don't know what it is. It feels like that. And not in a crazy, Fibonacci.
I kind of understand what he's saying because I've kind of had that feeling, especially after the Charlie Kirk shooting. It's like all these little things keep piling on and escalating, and it's like the lines get more divided, and it's almost like it's getting to the point now where it's like you got to pick your side, and if you're not on my side, you're the enemy. Period. And it's like we're getting there really quick.
Sequence. What are the numbers? What are the dates? Not in that way, but just in a general sense of malaise that people have. People have this. You talk to people about it. You go, how does it feel? Nobody feels good. Nobody feels great about this. We aren't in. Listen, we've probably never been in control. Now it's obvious how little control we're in.
Oh no, government controls everything, and the government. Here's a fact, guys. The government doesn't care about you, your family, or your kids. They do not give a shit. The government only cares about the government. That's it. Government does not care about you, your family, or your kids. They could care less.
Really obvious. There's a group of people, there's a group of oligarchs, there's a lot of highly placed interests that all have agendas, and they're all breaking bread and they're all carving it up. And and most people in this country don't have much of a say. And you just got to hope that they have your best interest at heart. You just got to hope that that you figure into their grand plan.
Like I always say, I just try to vote for the person I think is going to do the least damage. Because they're all going to do damage. I'm just trying to vote for the one that's going to do the least damage.
When Peter Thiel or Sam Altman or any of these people or, Bezos or any of these guys talk, Zuckerberg, when any of them speak, you just have to hope that they're thinking about you. They're thinking about you and your family and your ability to pay for things.
And they're not.
They're already going out and going, don't own a house. It's not for you. Doesn't make sense. Buy stock. Buy crypto. Why would you own a house? By the way, not only.
You know what's crazy? It almost seems like they don't want people to own homes. I mean, I'm glad that I have the one that I have. I've thought about moving just because I kind of don't like the city I'm in. I've been here my whole life. Thought about moving to Lake City, Florida, which is about an hour west from where I'm at now. But they houses used to I mean, houses used to be obtainable. Like the prices weren't so ridiculous, you know? It wasn't even that long ago that you could get a 3 bedroom, 2 bath house, 1,700 square foot, maybe even 2,000 square foot for 150K, 130K. Man, you can't even touch a fucking Cracker Jack box for less than like 300K now. And the interest rates are insane. That's another reason why I won't move. Because, but the interest rate I got now is at I think 3.5 or 3%. And I'm gonna trade that in, get another place, and pay 7 or 8%. Hell no. And just the payments on that. Have you seen what the payments are on a house with 8% interest? It's almost like 2 grand a month. I mean, they literally have priced everybody out of the housing market just about. I mean, unless you got a business and you're making some killer money, the average person that's just working a regular job, there is no fucking way they're ever going to be able to own a home because the prices keep going up. But maybe there's some hope though, because like the the houses are getting so high in my area that they had on the local news they're having problems selling them. Like nobody's buying them. They're just sitting there. As a matter of fact, my neighbor moved out of the house next to me, and that house has been on the market now for a full year. Next month will be a full year. That house has been on the market. It still ain't sold. And the problem is, for one, they're asking way too fucking much for it. And they won't budge on the price either. They're asking 549K. And people just think most everyday people just ain't got that kind of money to throw away. The payments, I looked it up on Zillow. The payments on that house are like $3,200 a month. I'm like, dude, that excludes like most of the middle class right there. It's crazy. You got middle class homes that are now going for rich prices, and the rich homes are going for like astronomical. You got to be like a billionaire to buy one of them now. But just the everyday middle class homes they're so out of sight that the middle class can't even afford them. And it's almost like they're doing it on purpose. Like they just want everybody renting. They don't want nobody owning shit.
A house hurts your social life. You can't have people over. You can't sit in the backyard with people. You can't talk to them. You can't go, hey, what's going on here? You can't share experiences with them. You live in a tiny apartment. You're embarrassed about it. Nobody comes over. There are no social bonds. That's the point. That's the point. You don't get to talk about the future of your community. That's exactly the point. You just sit there in your tiny little apartment. I have friends and
and get this. Let's say you buy a house, okay? Let's say you pay the house off. Everybody says, "Oh, well, you're going to own the home." You never own the home ever. You're never going to own the home. Don't pay your property taxes and see what happens. Where I'm at, if you let your property taxes fall back 3 years, they'll take your home. You can have it paid off. They're going to snatch it. So even you buy a home, they're like, "Oh, it's the American dream." It's like, well, yeah, I mean, technically, it'd be better to own your own home than to just keep throwing rent out every month because you're just throwing money to the wind when you're renting or leasing. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Some people prefer that. That's fine. But you never own your home. 'Cause you're still gonna have to pay property taxes. You're still gonna have upkeep and maintenance on it. And then everybody says, well, I'm going to leave my house to my kids. Okay, well, depending on the type of house you got, especially if it's an expensive one and the property taxes are outrageous, unless your kids have got a really good job, they might not be able to keep the house, you know? It's really crazy, man. I'd be happy, I got this house now. Unfortunately, it's not even close to being paid off. I still owe about 108, think about 108K on it. And get this shit. Get this. This is why I thought about moving. When we got this house, originally it was 134,000. I've been here almost 30 years. You would think it would be paid off. It's not. Reason being, especially here in Florida, these freaking insurance companies, they keep jacking my insurance rates up. And they keep jacking, that's what got me thinking about moving because they're jacking the insurance rates up so much that where I'm at, because it's in a flood prone area with the like hurricanes and all the bullshit, even though we haven't been hit by a major hurricane since I've lived here where I'm at, luckily, knock on wood. They keep raising the rates so high that I'm like, I got to get away from the flood area where we're at or whatever because it's ridiculous. Like the insurance I'm paying almost like 4,000 a year for homeowners insurance, and that's just for regular homeowners insurance. That doesn't include the flood insurance I'm required to have by the mortgage company, which I think is another 1,800. So they're fucking killing me on insurance, man. And that's why I was thinking about moving, but I'm not going to do the 8% interest rate either. So it's like I'm kind of stuck. But I want to move so bad, it's not even funny.
New York, and I did this for years. When I was doing comedy, you sit in your tiny little apartment in New York City or whatever city, by the way, Cleveland, doesn't matter. You sit in this little apartment, you don't have anyone over, and you consume the internet. Get online more and more and more and more. It's a tiny little cell that you live in, and then you radicalize yourself on the internet. Some of us are schizophrenics, go do crazy things, then the draconian surveillance and police state comes in. They don't have an interest in people having a yard. They don't want you outside. They don't want you outside.
Hey, that ain't, believe it or not, COVID didn't bother me a bit because I don't like a bunch of people anyways, and I'm inside most of the time anyways. So COVID didn't bother me a bit, man. But for a lot of people, I know they went stir crazy, man. I know a lot of marriages broke up once wives had their husbands staying home 24/7. And at that time when COVID, I still had my store too. And they were trying to shut the businesses down and they got pissed at me and said they were going to fine me because I still stayed open. And I put a plexiglass window up barrier so customers could still put their jewelry, underneath and I could still do the jewelry repair and stuff. And then and that's another reason why I want to get out of here is this city has turned to a shithole, man. It's like a bureaucracy of just bullshit. They were trying to fine me because they had an order that all businesses were supposed to stay closed and they didn't want nobody leaving outside their house because of COVID and the lockdown, all that bullshit. And I was like, no, you're gonna have to fine me. And then I got into a big argument with them guys. But it's been a series of little things that have happened where I'm at that I'm like I just want to move not super far. I just want to go to Lake City, Florida, which is about an hour. It's about an hour west from where I'm at. So like I'm on the east coast of Florida. It'd be kind of towards the Panhandle, but not quite that far. And that's where I would like to go. I'm still trying to make that happen. I just ain't figured out how yet. But I'm hoping that God will have some kind of miracle for me, something to present itself, and it can make that move. But I'm ready to get out of this place. I don't like where. So for those of you that don't know, I'm in Jacksonville, Florida. And if you've never lived here, you would visit it and be like, oh, it's a nice place. But once you stay here a while, you realize just how shitty the people are here, and it just keeps getting worse here. And there's like now a million. I think they said it's like a million and a half people in this place. Everywhere you go, there's traffic. I mean, if you get caught in rush hour, I mean, I live on the west side of town. It'd take you like an hour to get from the west side just over to the north side. Like you're not. It's almost like you're taking an hour trip, but you're only going what would normally take like 15 minutes to get to is taking you an hour. The traffic has just gotten bad here. The people, we've had a lot of people come down from New York during the COVID lockdowns. We got a lot of these New Yorkers, and they're just fucking dickheads. And I've snapped on a couple of them in lines at convenience stores and shit. And I'm afraid, man, I don't get out of this place. Somebody's going to just rub me wrong and I'm going to do something stupid, you know? So, Lake City, I checked into, they only got a population of like 12,000 people. I'm like, hell yeah. That's right up my alley right there. This million and million and a half, this shit gets old quick, man, especially when you're sitting in traffic. And then you got a bunch of dickheads. You got people flicking you off, you know. I even had one guy pull a gun on me. I told him, I mean, he flicked me off. I flicked him off back, told him to get fucked. He jumped out of his car, pointed his gun at me, and I was like, go ahead, shoot. I don't give a shit. Go ahead, shoot. I mean, it ain't gonna make your life any better. It ain't gonna make mine better for sure, but if that's what you feel like you want to do, go for it. I don't care. I had my gun on me, but I'm like, I'm not gonna sit in prison because he's a dickhead. Why do I got to go to prison and shoot him because he's a dickhead, you know? So I'm like, I got to get out of here. Got to get out of this place. All right, let's get back to the video. Well, we went off on we went like way off course.
Doesn't help them out. Putting your phone on, in a drawer and going outside and sitting down with 6 people and having dinner and talking about your community isn't helpful to them. It doesn't make any sense. They want you on the phone in a cell that you rent. They want you paying more and more money every year for a cell. And all of these...
That's basically what it is. That's 100% what it is. Like these are at least here where I'm at. I don't know if it's that way everywhere, but I assume rents have went up everywhere. It used to be you could get, not that long ago in the mid 90s, you could get a 1-bedroom apartment for $800, maybe $850, sometimes even cheaper, sometimes $750 a month. Now, you can't touch a 1-bedroom apartment here for like $1,400, $1,500. Shit, that's a house payment. It's crazy. And then you got people renting their bedrooms out. Like you can get on Craigslist and see people renting their bedrooms out for like $600 a month. So think about that. You're basically paying $600 to live in a small box. So it's almost like he's kind of right. It's like you're living in a cell.
Companies related. All of these mega conglomerate corporate landlords. Everything's a mall. They build these malls, and then on top of them, they have apartments that cost $6,000 a month to live on top of insomnia cookies, pig.
Yeah, have you ever seen, and then like New York is crazy. They got little like 200 square foot apartments that like he said, they want like $6,000 a month for. That is nuts.
Whoa, DoorDash really easy. They just throw the cookie in the window. It's disgusting. No one should live like this. No one's supposed to live like this. And everybody thinks it's okay or it's whatever. What did Jimmy Kimmel say? You're paying a lot of money to live in a cell. You can't have friends over. It's disgusting.
I mean, he ain't wrong.
It's absolutely disgusting for most of you to have your friends to your apartment. It's embarrassing. It's shameful. I've been there. I couldn't have my friends to my apartment, and my friends are animals. And it was still embarrassing to have your friends in your apartment because it's a tiny little apartment. You've got a corner of dirty clothes. You have a takeout in the garbage. It is you live in a cell. And then the behaviors of someone who lives in a cell are what they want. Someone who can sit in their backyard and have a glass of wine and invite the neighbors over and go, what's going on? How are you? What do we feel? What's going on in the schools? What's going on in our society?
Yeah, they don't want none of that bullshit.
They don't want that. They want you to be afraid of your neighbors. They want your neighbor to scare you. That's what they like. They like the idea that your neighbor terrifies you.
Hey, I ain't got to worry about my neighbors. If this house ever does sell next to me, I got 2 pit bulls. They can say hi to him and bye to him. Let the pit bulls will scare him. I ain't got to scare him. Pit bulls will do that for me.
I have neighbors, they scare me. I don't want to see them. I hope I don't see them. You know, that's how you destroy an entire country. You don't just do it. You do it with the way people live. This is the way you destroy a country. You make everybody afraid of their neighbors, fearful. You tell everyone, don't assimilate at all. You don't have to. In fact, we don't want you to. We don't want you making friends with anyone. Why would you assimilate? Speak your own language, have your own customs, do your own thing. Don't go near anyone else. Don't assimilate. Don't become an American. Don't think like a free American person. Live in the cell. There's a cupcake ATM. Get the cupcake out of the ATM. You know? You have to plan for the unexpected. It's so important.
Let's skip through that real quick. That's hilarious. Cupcake ATM. I bet you somebody make a killing off something like that. A cupcake ATM.
People live. So when these billionaires are telling you you don't need to own a house, it's not just that they don't think it's a good financial investment. Their interests are not served by you having block parties and seeing other people. They'd rather you live in a cell where people bring you Thai food and you watch YouTube videos about people or reality shows about people that do have homes. That's what people do. People in Los Angeles go to their cell on top.
Oh, that shit's crazy. He's probably not wrong, though. That's funny. They want you sitting in your cell watching YouTube videos of them in their homes. That's crazy.
Up of a PF Chang's, eat those lettuce wraps, which are good, and then watch reality shows about people that can afford to have a home. That's pornography now. You come thinking about how.
Oh shit. That's the new pornography, huh? He's like you he's like you get aroused by looking at the home you'll never have. Like, oh man, look at that big house. I wish I could have that.
Having a place to see your friends. But they don't want you to have any friends. They don't want communities. It's the hollowing out of the entire thing that serves their purposes. And the only thing left is the bread and circuses and the Kimmels and the this and the that. It's the only thing left. And you're radicalized easily one way or the other, and they're pulling strings because you have less and less of your own shit. You don't have a community. You live in some global world where like every single thing is the most important thing. And then you go online and go, my take on you're supposed to care about shit that's like in a 10-block radius of where you live.
We have got to the point where
Jeez.
literally anybody can build a fully working app without knowing how to code. This
You're not supposed to be involved in the Middle East. You're not supposed to be funding a real estate project in a place you've never been, in Gaza. It's not natural. It's insane. You're just not supposed to do that. You're supposed to care about things. You're supposed to know who got murdered 2 blocks away. Why did that person get murdered? You're supposed to know that. You're supposed to be interested in the crime in your area. Why? Because you live there. But now that there doesn't exist. It's malls and cupcake ATMs. It's fucking, private equity companies that build, mega structures that look like storage lockers. And you just sit there and get mad all day on the internet, and you don't know your neighbors, and you don't care if they get murdered. In fact, you might want them to. You have no stake in the game.
I hate to say that, but most people are that way. As long as if it don't happen to a family member of theirs or somebody close to them, when they hear about somebody else's murder, they're just like, "No, well, it's too bad." Nobody cares unless it happens to their immediate circle.
And all of this isn't new, and it's being expedited at a level I've never seen. It has never been more obvious that they are trying to get rid of human beings and human relationships and human communities at an incredibly fast clip. Human behavior puzzles them. Sam Altman doesn't know what humans do. Sam Altman's confused by human behavior. He doesn't get it.
Sam
He
Altman?
finds it inefficient and messy. It perplexes him. Okay? This is, and allegedly, that guy that worked for him died in a real weird way. Okay? And Sam Altman, when Tucker pressed him about that, acted like I did when my doctor asked me if I went to McDonald's. So let's get real here. These people don't care, and they think human behavior is a problem. Cultural practices that they don't understand. They don't understand people going to church. They don't understand festivals and fairs. They don't understand people having a community where they exchange goods and services in physical locations. They don't understand people that care. Their job is to make you terrified and broke. They want you on the Citizen app. They don't want another person telling you, hear what happened to Bob? They don't want that interaction happening. They want you on the Citizen app all day, hearing about crime that you don't care about because your communities aren't tight-knit communities where people know and care about each other. They're strange corporate hellscapes filled with like part-time residents, and they've turned every city in this country into a foreign Dubai like Disney Wonderland where people can launder money and then take a bunch of laundered drug money and go buy Labubu smoothies at Air.
There's got to be a lot of money that is laundered through Dubai. There's got to be a shit ton of money that gets laundered through there. Being that Dubai is as nice as it is, they have no taxes there. There's got to be a shit ton of money that gets laundered through there.
They don't want anything resembling life. It's obvious they don't want anything resembling human life. You're supposed to just walk around and participate in some viral scam. That's the only reason you exist to these people. The only reason you exist to Sam Altman is so that he can monitor you in some way and that you can take part wittingly or unwittingly in some viral scam that someone's cooked up, that you can buy some food item or little critter or cryptocurrency that someone is hawking. That is the sum total of your humanity to these people. Why buy a house? You don't need a house. What a bad investment. What does that word even mean? Investment? What are you talking about? You know what's a really good investment? Sitting there with 7 people in your backyard having dinner and talking about life. They don't want it. It's a threat to them. It's actually a big problem. So I mean, it's at a tremendous clip. It's the frequency of which this is happening, how quickly it's happening, everywhere. It's not just any one thing. It's architecture. It's business. It's political. It's cultural. But really, at the end of the day, it's all of these things working together to take you out of the world and put you on the internet where they want you to live. You're a view. You're an anonymous source of data. You're something to be marketed or terrified, but they don't consider you a person with inalienable rights. They don't consider you in any form or reflection of God or greater intelligence outside of the thing that they're going to create. They consider you an obstacle, and that the way you live is an obstacle to their ultimate goals. That's what they consider you.
That could be very true.
You are something that's in the way. Your football game and your a couple of beers outside, or you invite people over to your home, your family, your faith, your community, your culture, your all of this to them. And I don't care if it's liberal or conservative. I don't care if you're a fundamentalist Christian. I don't care if you're Jewish, Muslim. I don't care if you're an atheist. I don't care if you do the winter solstice. They don't either. Their entire thing is to get rid of physical communities that are based around these things and usher people into a digital landscape by telling them not to own houses, not to drive cars, not to own things, to use ride shares, to be on the internet, to live in a cell, and to be happy. It is what it is. You'll own nothing and be happy. It's a famous article. We all bring it up. But it's true. And what Jimmy Kimmel says at the end of the day doesn't really affect your life in the way that you think it does. He should have a right to say it. He should be criticized for saying it. People should attack him on the facts, not physically. You should attack the
He's
facts.
like, don't get me in trouble. I don't want to be sued.
They weren't present in what he said. Okay? But there's something bigger going on, and everyone feels it, and it worries me that other people don't. There's something bigger going on all over the country, and it's not about Jimmy Kimmel, and it's not really about left versus right. It's about this inertia that's moving humanity into a perpetual state of constant war, depression, anxiety, anger. I'm not proselytizing. I'm not telling you to do this or do that. I'm not saying to you that you can only find meaning in life one way. I believe there's many ways to find meaning in life. However, it's clearly obvious that the algorithms.
Look, guys, I don't care if you believe in God, Jesus, Buddha, whatever the hell you believe in. The people that are dangerous are the ones that don't believe in anything. Those are the ones that are dangerous. Believe in something. I don't care what it is. You want to believe in God, believe in God. You believe in Jesus, believe in Jesus. You want to believe in Muslim, Buddha, I don't know, whatever, believe in something. Because I think it's more dangerous to believe in nothing. Those are the people that seem to just go fucking off the wall. Believe in something.
Are manipulating us to hate each other and kill each other while everyone else is building resorts in other places of the world, in Gaza, in Qatar. They'll be building them in the Ukraine soon. Watch. And all the while, your life gets worse. You become angry. You lack the ability to live the life your parents did or their parents did. And all they have to say to you is how lucky you are. How lucky you are that you don't live in a place like China. Wow, how lucky you are that you don't live in a place like China, as they make America more like China every hour. So, you know, you just have to understand what's happening. You have to resist it in the ways that you can. Don't listen to them when they tell you not to buy a house. Don't listen to them. Do not listen to them when they tell you that it's worthless to have a patch of dirt and grass and friends and a community. It's absolutely not worthless. In fact, it's the only thing that may save you. Don't tell them it's worthless to learn how to cook or grow food or be sufficient because everything is at the click of a button. Don't tell them that it's worthless. Don't listen to them when they say that it is worthless to try to see the humanity in somebody who doesn't agree with you. You know, it really is disturbing. The people right now that run the show are not people. They make these mistakes. They do these interviews. Guys, someone keep them behind closed doors. They keep being interviewed. Frankensteins keep coming out to be interviewed. I think Frankenstein was actually good. I didn't read that book. Was Frankenstein good?
Yes.
Yes. That's not what I mean then. Who was bad then in Frankenstein? The mob?
Yes.
All right. That doesn't apply here. Why did they fire me? It's not fair. But what I'm telling you is this. Take a minute. Charlie Kirk was a human being. He was not a dangerous radical. You may not have agreed with him. Who gives a fuck? The guy was a human being. You have to rediscover that you are a human being as well. You don't have to like me. You don't have to think I'm good. You can hate me. You know, I'd like if you didn't shoot me.
Look, guys.
But
Look, I'm not advocating violence, but you need to be capable of violence when it's needed. Because there's evil in the world. I'm not saying going out and just randomly killing people. But if somebody comes at you and they're coming at you with a gun or a knife or they're just trying to punch you, you got to be capable of some kind of violence. Because there's this evil out there in the world, y'all. And anybody that knows me knows I'm cool, I'm calm, I'm collected. Very few people have seen me go off the edge. But those people that have seen me go off the edge, they'll tell you. They know when that button is flipped because I go into just it's like fuck it, it's like destroy mode. It's like if you're going to come at me, you better fucking kill me because I'm ready to kill you. If you're going to come at me, you better kill me because I'll be ready to kill you. Not that I want to kill anybody. I'm not going out looking for trouble. I'm not looking for problems. But if you're going to come at me, you better kill me. And I think that's a mentality a lot of people should have. I'm nice to people. If they're respectful to me, I'm respectful to them. But you got to understand there's evil people in the world. There's people that do not think the way you think. There's just some people, some of them are just wired different. You know, there's some people that are just born fucking crazy. And they just can't help it. And then there's some people that just, you know, you take like a mob guy like Sammy the Bull, right? I mean, that guy killed 19 people and he's out walking free. Now he justifies it that all the people he killed was in the mob life. He never killed anybody outside of the mob, which I can kind of get it. And then like military people, they kill people all the time for different reasons. But what I'm saying is don't go looking for violence, but you need to be capable of it when it arises because it's out there. And sometimes you might go through life and never encounter it. Never encounter it. But sometimes you're at the wrong place at the wrong time, and you just happen to be in just the wrong situation arises, and you can't freeze up. You can't be scared. You can't freeze up. You got to have that. I think that's a good mentality for everybody to have. If you're going to point a gun at me, if you're going to come at me with a knife, if you're going to try to punch me, you're trying to do any kind of physical harm to me, just have that mentality. If you're going to come at me, you better kill me because I'm prepared to kill you. I think that's a good mentality for everybody to have. I know that sounds bad probably to some people, but I think that's a good mentality for most people to have, y'all.
At the end of the day, getting rid of human communities, replacing them with digital communities that are created via hate and algorithms, and moving people out of these physical places and destroying the bonds we have with each other. Be very suspicious of people who tell you to not own a home. Be very suspicious of people that tell you they talk about investments and they own 12. Be very suspicious
Right.
of all these people. And I've been saying things like this for a long time, but it does feel now that we're getting to the point where we're getting close to the point of no return. And if we're easily distracted and we're just fighting each other.
Yeah, that's like this shit with what's his name? Grant Cardone. I don't know if y'all know who Grant Cardone is. He's always I've seen him on shows and TV talking about, "Oh, I don't want you to buy a home," or "Don't buy a home. It's a bad investment." But this dude owns multiple homes. He rents apartments out. That's why he don't want nobody buying homes. He owns like apartment complexes all over the place. And he rents them out. He's like, "No, home's a bad investment." It's like, dude, you own like 5 of them. You got 5 homes, and then you're renting apartment complexes all over the United States. It's crazy.
We're not going
Talk
to be
about
able to
hypocritical.
demand that we stay human, because there are interests and agendas operating at very high levels that want to rob us of our humanity, and they're winning and they're succeeding. I hope everyone has fun at the Riyadh Comedy Festival. I will continue to live like a Saudi in my own country because I can. I am now fully with Iran against Saudi Arabia. I didn't want it to be this way, but it is. Alliances shift constantly. This is.
So, for those of you that haven't been here for the whole stream, the reason he's saying that is he does stand-up comedy as well. Apparently, he had a tour booked over in Saudi Arabia, and I forgot what he said. He said something. What was it he said? I don't know. He made a joke. Oh, that's right. It wasn't even a joke. So the place was going to be in Saudi Arabia and Dubai. He was on a podcast or some show, and he accidentally said he was having a stand-up in Abu Dhabi, and they got butthurt about that, and they canceled his show or fired him from that festival that was going over there to Dubai. So he said, "Okay," he said, "Screw you guys. I guess they're having a festival in Iran," and he's like, "I'm going to a festival in Iran." He's like, "You guys just pushed me into Iran." So that's why he's talking about this. So for those of you who didn't hear earlier what had happened, would be kind of confused about this part.
The game. This is the game. I hope everyone enjoys it. And if you're a Saudi, I hope you continue to listen to the program. Continue to listen. Continue to support us here. And again, it's no reflection on you. I blame a few people who ended up being cowardly. I do not blame the Saudi people. Even the executioner who's doing the beheading. I don't even blame you. I don't blame you with the mask on doing the beheading. I don't blame you. I actually don't blame you. I don't blame you. Truly, I don't blame you. Okay? I blame Joker too.
Joker too. All right, that was good, guys. This Tim Dillon is always fun to watch. He's he's controversial though, for a lot of people. And that's crazy that's, with the way Saudis are cutting people's heads off and shit, and they want to get offended because he said the wrong place that the festival was going to be at, Abu Dhabi instead of Dubai. That's crazy. But I appreciate you guys tuning in. I appreciate Bird stopping in. I know I hadn't seen him in a while. I've just been so freaking busy. It's been crazy. It's been hard for me to even stream. But I appreciate you guys tuning in with me. If you guys want to stick around for a little bit, rock out. We're going to have some metal on. So if you want to stick around and jam out with me, you're more than welcome to, guys. But if not, I'll try to be here tomorrow between 5 and 8 Eastern time. But I appreciate you guys tuning in with me. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Take care, y'all.